The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world. This is Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa N Thomas. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at TessaTNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for the archive. But we break on command 'cause women rule the world. Buckle up, space travelers. Let the countdown begin.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time to go for a ride with host Tessa N Thomas.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a Rocky Mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners area, and settle down snugly at mile marker 419.9 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, September 16th, Monday, September 17th for those of you on the East Coast and beyond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a rockin' weekend, an awesome day, and an even better evening. I am your host, TessaTNT, and I am live tonight broadcasting from hot and ridiculous Phoenix, Arizona. We are 1,000 strong nightly on Spaced Out Radio Network across the world, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, as well as Deep Talk Radio, which you can find at deeptalkradio.com. Don't forget to head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, where you can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store and read the encounter online dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. So tonight I have a treat for all you guys and gals. Tonight we will be talking to and getting to know Mr. Matt deMille. And here it says, half-alien Montauk Frankenfurt from Hellywood. Blood of Cecil B., Father of Hollywood, Master Degree AFI 2010, the Harvard of Hollywood. Like Cecil B., a brother Freemason. Fiancé worked at Disneyland, was going to be married there, but the Hollywood dark forces had other plans. He's a Montauk survivor. Stranger things happened for real in 1983 to him. And before film, self-published RPGs, and he wears many geek badges. Family history of paranormal occurrences, and quite a tale to be told of Trump and time travel. He is here saying, I am a messenger, warning a grim one, and only half human, physically and psychologically. I'm not the nicest person in the world, but I don't pretend to be anything other than what I am, a messenger telling the truth as he knows it, and he will speak to whomever will listen. And then we're also joined tonight by Jason Mathis, who grew up in Arizona and encountered his first UFO witness, his aunt and uncle, whom took 2 photos of 2 white disc-shaped craft flying somewhere over the Alaskan landscape. This led to Jason seeking out Stanton Frieden to show the photos to and discuss them. It all branched out from there, and Jason was quoted as saying in one interview, he investigates various subjects from paranormal to the conspiratorial and everything in between. In his spare time, he's a full-time working single father, and he's witnessed many personal paranormal and supernatural events, some with witnesses and some without, and everything from time slips to the Mandela effect, and he has no explanation for what is going on, and all he does know is out of many thousands of reported similar cases or experiences, something is happening. It's not just a forgetful memory of a few million, nor a few million being taught wrong things by so many teachers for so many years, and he does not accept those explanations. Events like these need to be documented at the very least. Collection of real evidence is another entire matter, and the research community must come together if we are to fight the forces within trying to dismantle, confuse, and anger their fellow colleagues. He thinks that there are more skeptics in the field now than there was in the past. Well, that was a long intro. Welcome, guys. It's so nice to have you on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a mouthful. Oh, my. Well, it's interesting. Well, it's interesting to have Matt on because his story is really, well, first off, he's really a personable guy. He's not, often when we hear these stories reported by researchers, I don't want to say you feel disconnected, but you sit there imagining, what them going through these certain things. So I think Matt's story stands, and I'm glad he's here.
Me too. So Matt, can you tell us more about yourself and who is Matt deMille?
First, thank you both for that intro, and I have to say when the intro to your show was counting down, I was picturing in my head Deanna Troi from First Contact, and I really wanted to click my Steppenwolf and get a magic carpet ride started here, but I don't copyright strike on you, and I don't want to be that obnoxious, but that's just what was going through my head. So that's my story, actually, in a nutshell. I feel a little bit like Cochrane sometimes, a little disconnected, a little edgy, but I just seem to be working on things that out of this world. And I'll try and condense things and distill it down, but my story is very complex, and I didn't realize how much so until the last few years. Going through my life, I thought, this will sound cheesy, but I thought I was like everybody else to some degree. I didn't realize, for example, about my blood relation to Cecil B. DeMille. I didn't realize how important that was to everything happening now in Hollywood and Masonry. And the Montauk Project had always been there in my life, this shadow of trauma. I had always been channeling it. It's like mashed potatoes in Close Encounters. It meant I was always making chairs and always talking about this 1983 experience that happened to me. Actually, double experience. There were multiple things that happened, and I didn't have a context for it. I didn't even hear about the Montauk Project until 2013. So for 30 years, I was trying to make sense of it, and I didn't. So it's all coming together. All the pieces of the puzzle are coming into place, and that's why I'm more comfortable coming out talking. I think I have a better context I have enough pieces of the puzzle not to make a complete picture. There's pieces missing, but you can see a pretty good picture of where it's going, and it's a bizarre story. It's all over, it's big tapestry. It's one of those 50,000 piece jigsaw puzzles.
No, go on. I'm listening.
That's it. That was the point. Yeah.
Well, before we get into the 1983 deal, tell us about, or I'd like to know, the American Film Institute, because you and I have probably talked about, different film productions, but this is the real thing. You go in there, this is like the creme de la creme, from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is where you go to learn from people who make the multi-million-dollar movies.
Yeah, I'll run a gauntlet here, but it should only take a few minutes to get to AFI.
Okay.
I grew up making role-playing games, RPGs, my own D&D type of things, hence very Stranger Things. That was my life. I was playing Dungeons & Dragons, playing Dragon's Lair, playing with Star Wars toys. I was that age. I was born in 1974. June 14th, Trump's birthday, just to throw that out there. That'll be important later when we get to the Montauk Project in depth. Just one of those many synchronicities. But I want to self-publish my games with no intention of ever making movies, but local filmmakers in the early 2000s were making role-playing game movies, and it went from product placement to they saw my home and they said, your home is better than our movie set. Can you be our production designer? And I'm like, what's a production designer? And they said, well, I was the guy in charge of the art department for the movie. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And I learned on my feet making independent film, and in a few short years, I ended up somehow skipping an undergrad degree. I only have a high school diploma, and went down to a master's program in Hollywood. The American Film Institute, the AFI, is considered the Harvard or the Juilliard of Hollywood. When you're only 140 students are accepted every year, and you're given the keys to the kingdom. I've been on every studio lot. I've been to the big parties. I've had, especially with my name, when I arrived there, they're like, oh my God, are you related to Cecil B? And I'm like, I guess so. Not realizing the significance of it at the time. Old Exodus, 10 Commandments. Charlton Heston, Moses himself, was the first chairman of the school, by the way. It was founded in 1970 as part of the communist infiltration of Hollywood under LBJ. Look up the name Jack Valenti. He's actually in the photo with LBJ on the plane when he's swearing in. And suffice it to say, I don't believe in magic bullets. I believe in, Bilderberg and, all those lovely people. So LBJ, as dirty as he can, he started the American Film Institute, and oddly, for the name American, the logo is red, white, and black, not red, white, and blue. So I happened to just be in the middle of a strange party, and they tried to recruit me into the various factions. I was offered the pizza, I was offered the drugs, I was offered the everything at a student level. This is the Ivy League level, sure, but it's still a student level. The school itself doesn't train actors. Just to make it clear, it's all behind the scenes. There's 6 disciplines: directing. Well,
can I ask you one question? Can I ask you one question real quick?
Sure.
When they asked you, like what you just said, the behind the curtain, so to speak, would they be selective within those 140 students who to ask? I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't ask 140 of them all, or maybe they did. I don't know.
They feel you out. It's a feeling out process of several months, but it's all done through parties and socializing. Students spend as much time at the local hangouts as they do at class, and it's all about, hey, do you want to come over to our place? Hey, do you want to? We're having a private party at this person's apartment, and they find who they can talk to, just like any mafia type of thing. Are you going to play ball or not? And right. I was Joe Friday, Captain America in their midst. I told them, not realizing who I was talking to at the time, I was like, I'm just here to be creative and work hard. I'll never take any bribes or anything. And they're like, red flag, this guy. Indiana Jones goes to Pankot Palace, I'm talking to Chatter Lown, and I thought we were talking about folklore. And I use the Temple of Doom as a metaphor for Hollywood as a whole, because yeah, you don't have to look too deep, and you find the secret doors to very nasty places, especially when you're in the art department. My discipline, most disciplines never left the campus. Editors have their editing suites. They sit there all day. Screenwriters can write wherever. The art department, my discipline, had to tour the studio lots because we have to look at the sound stages, we have to do the locations, the prop rooms, the wardrobe, all those sorts of things. So I literally had the doors open to me. I probably to this day have access to the back lots. I could wander right in. I've wandered around a lot with my Indiana Jones gear on, snooping around, and there's things to find, believe me.
So,
Oh my God.
going a bit further back than that, I always like to know from each guest, when was your first paranormal experience, whether it be, ghosts or aliens or UFOs?
Before I was born. I'm the third of two children. Matt deMille died at birth. My mother had a miscarriage, and then there was an age difference becoming between my elder brother and I, who was born September 26th, 1970, so 3.5 years older than me, almost 4. They didn't want there to be too much of an age difference so that we wouldn't have too much difference between us. They wanted us to be friends. And my parents said, like, well, if we don't get pregnant, if I don't get pregnant by this last month, then he's going to be an only child, my brother. And I came along at the last minute. And since the earliest days, my mother and I have talked about how I'm one of those, I'm coming, Mom, just, spiritual. I have a deep spiritual connection with my mother, very deep. But other than that, my first conscious paranormal experience was at 3 years old. I call it the orange giraffe experience. I was in my crib or in my bed, whatever. I was in my room, and I looked up to the window, and I have a long version of this on my YouTube. I have all my stories broken into segments, and this one is called Entities, and it covers the various, what people always wanted to say were alien abduction experiences, but I always said, no, that's not it. It was more just the curtain of dimensions being rolled back, and there was something there outside my window. There was orange light, and a giraffe's head is the closest comparison I could make, but that's clearly not what it was. Maybe they were going fairy anthrope on me. Maybe I just watched too much Star Wars recently and I had the cantina in my head. But it was that I can still almost feel it to this day, 41 years later. And it was the first of many entity visits, the second being what I called the Blue Cow at a different house a few years later when I was about 5 or 6. And then the main one, getting us to 1983 in Montauk, was inside the house. And is it okay to name drop on this show?
No, I don't see an issue.
Christopher Garantano, his Montauk Chronicles, he does a creation of an entity in that is about the closest I can say as to what it is, like a white luminous cloak, an ethereal, as Dr. Ray Stantz might say, a full torso vaporous apparition, but with one distinct feature, and that would be no face. All my life, from this entity in my house in 1983, I said had no face. Imagine when I'm watching Stranger Things 33 years later. Wow.
Yeah, that had a lot of, I think, at least what I went through paranormally as a kid. My sister had night terrors and described seeing, black masses and things with no faces, things calling out to her in the dark, from the darkness.
Yeah, it's something about the human consciousness, I believe, that we're not either capable of remembering or we're not supposed to remember. Both. Excuse me. But I've had a number of other paranormal experiences early in my life. All my life I had light fixtures and soda bottles explode. When I was still a toddler, actually this predates the orange giraffe at age 3. When I was about 1.5 years old, I am told this story because I don't have conscious memory of it. I was in the shopping cart, a little toddler in that seat that they have. And this is back in the 70s when the soda bottles were made of glass, not plastic. It was one of those 2-liter bottles, and it somehow it lifted slightly out of the cart. Couldn't have rolled out. It was in there too deep, but it had a little boost somehow and shattered, hit the floor and shattered. Some people tell the story it shattered in the cart. there's, like I said, I don't have conscious memory of it, but either way, I ended up going to the hospital as 1.5-year-old and getting all these shards of glass out of me. And then through my youth, all the time, light bulbs would blow up, computers would go on the fritz. Video games were a constant frustration in and of themselves, but when imagine 11 from Stranger Things playing video games that are not well designed in the first place, and I smashed more than one controller. You know, I had a nasty little temper as a kid, which probably aggravated it because we're dealing with energy. And when what happens in Stranger Things, when 11 gets upset, things break. That was basically what my childhood. I've had no shortage of witnesses and incidents. It was almost a common occurrence. Oh, Matt blew up another light bulb, huh? Get another light bulb. Matt's upset again. You know, it was a joke. My friends saw it. Everyone saw it. And
well, did they have any like negative reaction to you because of that, or did they understand what it was?
I was blessed with parents that are eternally patient, understanding, and cool. They didn't force anything on me like a career or a religion or anything. Let me find myself, and they were always supportive. I had a group of friends that they were like the Stranger Things friends. They were like the Goonies. I had a group of friends that didn't judge me. I was Matt. I was always weird. In school, I was like Calvin, Calvin and Hobbes. I was always doodling and not paying attention. I was, I guess, what people would call a crystal child or an indigo child. So I was the weird one all the time. I listened to Weird Al. Everyone else listened to all the pop stars. I listened to Weird Al when he made fun of their pop stars. So these light bulbs exploding mixed into that was just part of Matt being weird. I think they got used to it.
So yeah.
I
Well,
like
I
to
was
think
reading,
so.
yeah, that your family seems to have a long line of paranormal occurrences or experiences.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that? I love hearing that kind of stuff.
Yes. As synchronicity would have it, I don't believe in coincidences. My parents were both born in the spring, March and May of 1947 in Tacoma, Washington. For UFO historians, Tacoma, Washington, 1947 is the first modern sighting of the so-called Men in Black because of the Murray Island incident and Kenneth Arnold and all of that stuff. So that's just a creepy beginning. But my mother has a story from when she was 6 years old, so 1953, when she may have seen the Men in Black, or what people now call, and I'm actually crossing myself when I say this, and I'm not even that religious, Hat Man. Hat Man, by the way, is important to the time travel Trump story, because in 2013 I wrote a movie script that basically predicted everything from Trump. The Baron Trump story from 1893. I have registered with the Writers Guild a script from 2013 that is that same story, with the addition of the Hat Man as the antagonist, kind of like Judge Doom from Roger Rabbit. But my mother, when she was 6 years old, my mother was born into Charlie Bucket, Willy Wonka. She was born dirt poor. I don't want to make people cry or anything, but I do have to set a stage for what's to follow. She was the youngest of 5, 3 older brothers, 1 older sister. Mother died when she was that age. There's a ghost story there, coming back to visit in the night, separate from what I'm about to tell about the Man in Black. And the father was not the biological father, he was a stepfather, and he had severe PTS from World War II. So he was dumped after the war with PTS and 5 children, not his own. Pretty bad situation, living out here in the Puyallup Valley, the farmlands. Not much out there at the time. It's like Doc Brown. I remember when this was all pine trees as far as the eye could see.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all Twin Pines Mall overdeveloped up there. It's very Hill Valley. She said this stepfather, Gene, he regularly beat the other 3 brothers, and sometimes he took his PTS out on. It was a bit of Sound of Music. It was a military regiment, and anyone who stepped out of line lost some teeth, that sort of thing. And they were dirt poor. It was every bad growing up story you could imagine, but it was all true, except for maybe walking uphill to school both ways. You know, walking back and forth to school uphill both ways. You know, it wasn't
no
quite,
shoes.
but it was close. I mean, it was very, very close. So you didn't lie with this guy, Gene. You didn't make up stories. You'd lose teeth for it. The story is that my mother and her sister, who shared a room, saw an entity outside the window, your classic hat man right there, except the window, there's a single-story house, but the property on the side sloped. Short version, he would have had to have been 9 feet tall. They freaked out, went and told Gene at the risk of losing teeth. Gene, who had combat PTS from the war, saw the fear in their faces and took it seriously. He went out to investigate. He didn't get upset at all. Whatever they saw was real. So I don't know if my family's been shadowed our whole lives. You know, you get UFO abductees all the time with generational abduction. I don't think I'm an abductee, but who knows? But that's the story. And yeah, it's a little creepy.
Yeah, to say the least.
Go ahead.
Well, what about? No, I was going to say. Well, what about your 1983 deal? What were there events leading up to that, like paranormal things, or that just was it quiet for a while, then out of the dam, and because that was, I think you said May of '83, right?
Correct. Sunset Elementary School, University Place / Tacoma, Washington. About a mile from. I'm not into golf. We'll talk about Trump, but I'm not a golf guy. I'm kind of Caddyshack when it comes to golf. I'm a Dangerfield guy. I'm a George Carlin guy when it comes to golf. But we had the Chambers Bay Golf Course that the U.S. Open was held at this last year. The school is about a few blocks from that, to give you a location. Back then, it was mostly pine trees as far as the eye could see. 1983, I'm on the school grounds. And it's on the edge of the field, towards the back, there was this ring of trees where my friends and I would play. I didn't like to play football. I wasn't into the usual things. My friends and I'd get together and talk, geek stuff. We'd talk Star Wars. We'd smuggle our G.I. Joes and Transformers in our bags into school and go out and play them during recess. We didn't care about football. After recess, as recess was closing one day, all the kids were going in, and there's a big field there. I watched them all going across the field, and it was a surreal, I dare say, the beginning of what's called a missing 411 or fairy ring or Steph Young experience. Mm-hmm. Quiet, but there was that reality slowing down. Not quite sure how to describe it. I had one friend with me at the time. His name was Jeremy. And I said, when everyone else goes in, just tell him I'm not coming back. And he's like, what? He was kind of thick. He was like, I won't invite bad karma. I'll just say he didn't quite get it. But I just said, I'm just not coming back. And he's like, okay. And he just runs off and okay. In the moment, I didn't even consider that he didn't consider how weird it was. It was like I knew I was being called. I wasn't hearing a voice calling me or anything, but I felt a compulsion to just stay there. Now, over the years, I've tried to tell myself that I thought I was in trouble with an assignment that I missed. You know how kids can get.
Yeah.
They do one little mistake. They think it's the end of the world. I'm going to run away and die and blah, blah, blah. There's part of me that wants to say that's what it was. Certainly. You want to logically rationalize it, but the memory sticks in my head too much of where that's where, when I picture Jeremy running off, it kind of reminds me of I talk in movies a lot. I don't know if that's a hindrance or a help for the audience, but the movie Flatliners from 1990 about near-death experiences, mm-hmm. There's the scene where they're running across the field chasing Billy Mahoney, and it's just that bizarre, dreamy experience. That's what I remember watching the kids going into recess. It was like they were all going into another reality, and I was just, the Oz factor was kicking in. And then memory is blank, missing time to this day. The next thing I remember is sitting by a tree about, I don't know, give or take about 100 yards away. There's a green belt that divides the field from an access road behind it. It's all residential. There's no thick woods. And I have videos of it in my entities testification on my YouTube where I went back to the site in 2013, 30 years later, and it looks the same. So I pan the camera around, okay, here's where this and that happened. So you can see for yourself, no real place to hide. I wasn't hiding. I was gone. I was somewhere else. And I remember seeing in the access road the white truck of Principal Mr. Blair and my brother screech to a halt and them coming up to get me. And I was wearing a coat and jeans, and I had borderline hypothermia. They were wearing shorts and flip-flops because it was a warm spring day. Mm-hmm. The whole school had hundreds of people looking for me. The police had been notified. My mother, who was a legal secretary, had been notified at work, and she was doing the full Winona Ryder nervous breakdown. When I watched that show, I almost had a nervous breakdown from just watching it because it brought so much emotion back.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for Winona Ryder's character that I don't cry easy, but that choked me up. My mom thought I had been kidnapped. You know, it was the day and age of milk carton kids. I had been cut into 1,000 pieces. Or that's what she was thinking.
Yeah. You always think the worst. I do, at least. When my kids go missing, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Actually getting to me a little bit here. But I was told that I had been missing for hours. And once again, stories differ. The minimal time I've heard I was gone was half an hour. The maximum time I've heard I was gone was 3 hours. And I don't have any I have blank memory, but it was Sunset Elementary, 1983. I'm sure there's hundreds of kids that were there. Anyone wants to study it, they could track them. Did something like this happen back then? You could check the police. Did anyone working, I'm sure there's got to be people that remember this. I can't make this up. So that's what happened. And right nearby is a swimming pool, oddly, getting into Stranger Things territory. Mm-hmm. The communal Breckenridge Housing Development swimming pool that a few years later was one of the few times that I ever was not myself. It's like the area has a dark energy to it or something. In New Year's Day, 1986, so 85, 86 New Year's, I had gotten walkie-talkies for Christmas. And my friend and I were out testing him. I won't name him, but he was 1 year older than me and kind of a juvenile, but we were neighbors, we were friends. He talked me into, and this is where I was I was not the good little Joe Friday that day. Something was not myself. Mm-hmm. Let's hop the fence and throw rocks into the frozen over pool and risk breaking through the ice and drowning. Well, we got caught. We got in trouble. He got in worse trouble than I did because his father was a lot less cool than mine. Again, I had the most awesome parents in the world. I didn't even get a beating for it. But there's something about that area. Maybe, I don't know, but it's a concentrated little area. And now to this day, when I drive to Blue Lodge once a month, I take what I call Mirkwood Road, Breckenridge Drive, which runs right by it. I'm listening to Jim Morrison while I'm listening to Rocky Horror Time Warp while I'm going past where stranger things happen on my way to a Freemason meeting. That's my life.
Yeah. I could live with that. Well, going back to the beginning again, and I keep doing that, but I want to know everything. In your bio, you claim to be half human. Does this make you an alien hybrid? What exactly do you know about this situation that you're in?
I have long considered it mostly psychologically, not just sarcastically, like I don't want anything to do with humans, although I'm getting to that point. But there are exceptions. Thank you for being kind to me. But a lot of people I've been called crazy too many times. But when you get into Montauk research and Masonry and Hollywood occultism, mm-hmm. you find what's at the center of it is DNA, blood. It's about frequency and vibration, as Tesla said. And we Montauk boys have that blood recipe that the Third Reich so coveted. It's that Nordic Atlantean mixed with the Native Americans. Montauk is named after the Montauk Indians. And there are different blood recipes for different effects, but these are not good effects. The children that were used for the chair as guinea pigs, Stranger Things had 11, but there's numbers 1 through 10, but the Montauk Project went through hundreds, if not thousands, in the roughly decade and a half that they were functional. And everything points back to DNA, and there's a thing between two this is getting into science that's beyond my realm. I'm going with this more intuitively and occultic, going by synchronicity, what all these people seem to focus on, and they know more than I do.
Yeah.
There's 2-strand DNA and 3-strand DNA. And the 3-strand DNA is like the next step in, maybe it's like X-Men with the mutants or something, or an ancient race, more the pre-antediluvian race, the Atlanteans or the Lumerians or Sumerians or something like that. I don't know, but it's what they like to use, and all their rituals point back towards it. The Holy Grail is all about DNA. The Roslin Pillar, it's what it's all about. It's all internal. But I'll get off on a tangent if I go there. I'll start talking about all the different relics and how they're all the same.
Yeah.
Aladdin, the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, they're all the same thing, really. It's all about your pineal gland at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that kind of got me thinking on a different subject as well. A lot of people talk about Jesus, and he doesn't have any offspring or anything like that, but, you know, you hear stories that he was married to Mary, and they did have a child. I think it was a daughter. And to me, like, it was in my thought process that this could, in fact, be the Holy Grail. Like you're talking about genetics and pineal glands and whatnot.
Oh, well, that's I got to put a separation in there. I didn't quite answer the question, why am I half alien in my estimation? My DNA is really weird. I guess I kind of answered it, but I want to make sure that's the point there, that there's a lot of alien stuff at Montauk, and I don't know, maybe planet Earth is mixed with blood from different places all over the place. I just don't think I'm fully human at the end. I don't have all the answers, but in my gut, that's what I feel. As far as Jesus, the whole bloodline thing aside, what I mean by DNA is that anyone can access the Grail. Everyone has the Grail with them right now. You just know it. It's the secret of secrets, that no one needs to be special, no one needs to be royalty, no one needs an institution. Anyone can connect to the source by meditation, fasting. I use a variety of sacred herbs, shall we say. Read the Bible. Moses used them. It's getting in touch with your cellular history, I dare say, I apologize to Star Wars fans, but your midichlorians, the less you're distracted by the exterior world, by false golden calves, false idols by any other name, the more you look inward, you can become like Master Yoda says, become in touch with the energy between the tree, the rock, the land, and the ship. Mm-hmm. You can feel the vibrations of things, especially your own body. And when you are calm enough, centered enough in your circle, and you can find an altered state of consciousness, however you get there, like I said, some people meditate, some people fast, some people do one substance or another, combinations. You leave the matrix behind. You just focus on what's inside, and everyone can access it. The 2- and 3-strand DNA is really just more like an old computer versus a new computer. One has more processing power, but they can all do the same thing. I think we're all being upgraded. I think that's where humanity has to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard a lot recently about ascension and how we're actually on that plane, and different people are getting it and ascending, but others are kind of stuck at a stalemate or whatnot. But yeah, things have been pretty weird, but awesome at the same time.
The Great Awakening.
Yeah, especially. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The Great Awakening, the ongoing awakening that we all knew long ago was coming. A lot of us felt it. Now it's happening, and it's a wild ride.
Indeed.
I wonder if part of that is, I don't like the term Mandela effect. I like time shifts or time slips. And I think a lot of it is, excuse me, a lot of it is bunk, but I think in that bunk there are true paranormal, time slip or shift experiences. And if they're not, then they're pretty darn good psyop operations,
Well, I think all those terms we all know what they mean, but it's like any paranormal phenomena. There doesn't need to be many of them to be real for the phenomenon. It only takes one case for it.
Right, exactly.
And also with most phenomena, the real phenomena began, and then all the presumptions and misidentifications followed. Kenneth Arnold sees UFOs in 1947. Something happens at Roswell. But then a lot of people see UFOs. Probably some did. Probably a lot of them didn't. Thought they did. We're there with the Mandela effect.
Well, you want to hear another brilliant piece of disinfo I just read, and this goes to show you how far, I don't know if you want to call it a troll, a government troll, or somebody will go to discredit a long-dead researcher. I was listening to Maeve Russell the other day on YouTube, and this fella writes a note on there and says, "Oh yeah, Maeve Russell, 1947, she was one of the children that posed for the Roswell alien hoax." And I started laughing, and I thought, well, first off, Maeve Russell was well out of college and married by 1947. And I just thought that's a complete stretch. But there still exist to try to discredit, somebody like that who, researches, what we would call paranormal as well.
There's so many charlatans and people that like to get a kick out of hoaxing things. They're always going to be there, but they're dangerous. They confuse people. Mm-hmm. I like to think of them kind of like, you ever see another movie, Leap of Faith with Steve Martin?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. Remember how they got people planted in the audience? The audience is cold. To signal and they, amen, preacher. Fuck it, hallelujah. Yeah. I think the government, generally they're content to sit back and let people be naturally confused and let hoaxsters get their ego fixed. But if something's dangerous, if they need to stir the public away, they'll plant stories out there that, like people in an audience, to get the audience to go the way they want them to go. Like HAARP, they only need to put a little pulse out there and push a hurricane. They don't need to create it. They just guide it. They're control freaks. They think in terms of control, not creation.
Well, here's the thing. This is a very good topic. Let's stay on this for a moment. A friend of mine who she liked to bring spirituality into this, and I said, look, weather control exists, weather manipulation. She says, no, the hurricanes, God made. I said, yeah, well, God may have made it. I said, but we're controlling it where it goes. And she's like, well, you're just, she thought I was, excuse my language, just totally negating everything that God created, and that's not what I was saying. I'm like, no, mankind has a technology to do these things. It's not beyond our control. But I said, look, let's agree to disagree. But she kept pushing it, and I wouldn't respond after that.
We all know there are people that have open minds and people that will just dig in their heels at this point. We got the HAARP and weather warfare treaties with the UN going back to 1971. I learned about HAARP in 1994, the Alaska facility. And just before going on the show tonight, was catching up with the hurricane on the East Coast. We've got pulses coming out of Antarctica, clearly. Multiple are tracking that. Clearly, we got our new Schwabian, nasty New World Order Nazis down there playing with their. I like to think it's Destro and Cobra Commander using the weather dominator. With their, I can just picture Cobra.
I can totally relate.
Blast them, Destro! Destroy Scrub! I command it!
Yeah.
I'd be more Serpento.
Well,
Destro, I command it.
Well, I want to know why they're not talking about the nice ice-free oasis and rolling brown hills of Antarctica. You know, they just say they recently came out with some new high-graphic, high-resolution photos of Antarctica, never before seen. I'm thinking, you ain't going to photograph that part of Antarctica that shows on my 57 map.
We're not supposed to think of Antarctica unless we're supposed to buy a subscription to National Geographic. That's the only time we're supposed to.
Well, let me tell you,
Right.
this National Geographic... No, this National Geographic from 57 has the actual Admiral Byrd expedition route and the Nazi planes made back then, and it showed the top secret bases, and it said this portion is rolling brown hills, ice-free oasis.
Question for history. The UFOs that the Nazis made, or the UFOs that were made for the Nazis? What's really...
These were the ones... He was talking about the specific ones that he was attacked by when he took down the...
I'm just saying that I think what really happened with history, I don't think the Nazis went down to Antarctica. I think there's something in Antarctica that had contact with the Nazis, and then they went down there. Oh, they're down there, but they didn't start it. They got their technology from something. I really think if you want non-humans, either pole, North Pole or South. I'm not going into Hollow Earth. I don't need to. I think the Earth is a globe.
I'm Bird's confused with that. I don't know why.
I'm perfectly fine with conventional science when it comes to the Earth being a globe and gravitational planets. I'm more of an electromagnetic universe guy than a pure gravity guy. I'm not a fan of Denial Grease Tyson. I'm much more of a Tesla guy. But North and South Pole, something's going on there that's been going on there for a long time, and it's not human. Maybe maybe the previous civilizations at the end of the last ice age just had to go underground, but they're still around. Possible. I don't know.
Not to mention all the natural resources Bird said was down there.
Oh yeah, and probably the rest of the planet's expendable to them. They probably don't care which countries are thrown into chaos by their puppets.
Yeah.
At the end, it's as long as it serves their agenda. They don't care if it's the Nazis or the British or the United Nations that they're controlling. They'll just use them.
Well, I got a few questions from the chat room. First one coming from Jason Hotep, and he's wondering if you have ever measured how much electricity you are producing.
I have not, in any official capacity, measured it. I oddly didn't do well with electronics class in high school. I thought I would love it. And I didn't have the patience to solder anything. Took too long. But I have had a number of freaky experiences with beyond light bulbs. In the old days with CRT monitors, especially in the late 80s when I was at probably in my emotional worst, junior high school days when everyone's, hormones are changing you and you're freaking out all the time. When I would get my hand near a computer monitor, it would leave like a rainbow distortion, like a magnet. Yeah, that only happened a couple times, but I don't know what to make of that. But I never actually measured it.
Awesome. Adderallian is asking, what is your favorite Weird Al song?
Oh, all of them.
Right?
My favorite.
How do you choose one? Like, it's impossible.
I would probably Dare to Be Stupid. Dare to Be Stupid, because that's like the marching song of the whole Weird Al spirit. You have to dare to be stupid, and everything is crazy.
I played.
That would probably. If not that, the Fun Zone theme song. It's not a song, but it's just an instrumental from UHF. Stanley Spadowski's when he comes out in the car. It's called the Fun Zone, and to me, that's also the spirit of Weird Al. Just bring color and fun into the world.
Nice.
Did you see him? Did you see him live on stage with Weezers when he stepped in with his accordion, singing "Africa" by Toto?
I haven't actually. I haven't kept with Al for a few years because of PTS reasons. That video he did about tinfoil hats and the Illuminati a few years ago.
Sorry, yeah.
I was going to be.
I'm not laughing at it, but I remember.
But I was going to be the one to build that set. It was built. I looked at the credits. It's my producer. It's our stage. It was going to be shot like a month after I left LA or was run out of town. So I would have worked with Weird Al and built that set if not for the Hollywood mafias that destroyed my life. So after that, nothing against Weird Al, but it got a little painful to watch him. So I haven't really kept up much.
Oh.
So, well, can I ask you a question about that whole AFI film thing? So let me ask you: did you graduate from there?
Oh yeah, I wasn't going to let him beat me. I paid.
So you graduated. I'm sorry.
I get paid a lot of money for my degree.
Right. So, do they pick people right from film school to work on? Like, say Disney has something going on, they're like, hey, now there's this fresh new cat.
Oh, absolutely.
Out of film school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
so, do they put them to work under somebody for the first time? I'm sure they don't just let them loose on a multi-million-dollar production.
Oh, well, if you've seen some of the results coming out of Hollywood lately, you might want to.
Yeah, well,
they do treat people. Star Wars.
Don't get me started on that. I just recently seen the trailer for the new Predator, and I'm like, what? They redid Predator? No.
Yeah.
No. Actually, it's a sequel / reboot / number 6 that is going to. I've already heard the spoilers for it, so I won't spoil it for you. But trust me, there's nothing new between it, the Alien franchise, and social justice politics.
You know what I think would be interesting about a guy in his mid-40s who time travels back to was like just at the very beginning of his high school years, the summer before high school, and you take it from there. But he knows everything that's going to happen, kind of like the Cassandra complex, like you were saying. He's condemned to know the future, but nobody believes him. You know, and only this time he knows the winning lottery numbers, so he's like set for money.
Well, I have predicted so much that's happened, and frankly, I gave up trying to tell people a long time ago. I actually think about this from time to time where I thought, if only I could go back and warn people. Wait a minute, I did. They didn't listen anyway.
Now, here's another thing, and I don't know if I told you this or not, but this has to do with time travel. But do you think there's a guy on the internet, his name is Reactor1967, that's his handle, but he claims to be able to time travel using computers. I don't know how that would be possible, but
I don't think I like to. I can't quote them, but I'm a fan of them. The Greek philosophers. I forget which one it was, but argued that perfect things are founded in simplicity. I don't think any technology is required for anything in this mortal experience. I don't think that's any more than any royal blood or special blood is required. I think the matrix that we're all being tested in, this consciousness test, is fair to everyone in a sense. No one's excluded. No one has special access. That wouldn't be a proper cosmic consciousness factory. That's not what they want. The higher awareness of that's not what it should be. That's Borg. That's mechanical. That you need computers to do. Not talking about the validity of it, although I tend to believe it's true. But the old 1996-97 Alien interview with Victor came out of Area 51. There's a quote from that I like, where they're talking about the psychic medium interviewing the alien and whether he was a charlatan or not. But the quote was, technology is a process the vessel, meaning our body, uses to perfect itself. But that's it. It's just a tool. It's not the journey. It's a golden calf by any other name. It's a distraction to the external rather than reflecting, which is what Mount Sinai means, reflecting internal. I think all of us, if we focus enough, can talk to our midichlorians, awaken our blood, access our pineal gland, get in touch with the source, and see things beyond. And the more we do that, it's like I can't believe the term's escaping me, when you talk yourself into being sick.
Hypochondriac?
No, placebo. That you can rewrite your genetic code by thinking about it. The more you focus on these things, the more you can modify reality as you go along, bit by bit. You tell yourself you're not going to get sick. You're not gonna. No, as long as you take care of your body as well. But you hedge your bet. You use the source. You influence things.
Nice.
It's what I've been doing all my life, and it works. Sounds crazy, but it works. When I'm out jogging, if I twist my ankle, I sort of go into a half meditative mode. Having the adrenaline and the endorphins already helps me kind of get there, like an altered state. But I'll focus on my body, repair, knit, stitch, midichlorians, get to work. Ankle's fine. Never need tape, never need medicine. It just heals.
Well, I hate to interrupt, but on that note, you guys, we got to go to our first break. And thanks so much for tuning in. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
There's news, and there's The Encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Thiemer inviting you to check out The Encounter. Our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out, and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR The Encounter. Come give us a read.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. Here comes the second hour of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa N Thomas. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. And you can follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT. Now, back to the show.
Hey guys, welcome back, and thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Our guest this evening is Matt deMille, and we are also joined by Jason Mathis. You guys, welcome back, and thanks so much for being on the show tonight.
It's a pleasure. Thanks again for having me.
Yes, thank you on this Sunday night.
Yeah, Sunday night. Laid up Sunday night. Well, I had a couple more questions from the chat room before we move on to other topics.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Jason, what were you saying?
Oh, nothing. I'm just hanging out. Go ahead.
Ask me the questions, Bridgekeeper. I'm not afraid.
Okay. This one comes from SOR's very own Kat, and she's wondering, does Matt believe he has MIB DNA in his bloodline?
I wouldn't say I have MIB bloodline because I don't know what the MIB are. I'm pretty sure we have hybrid aliens that have always looked in on humanity, like the agents in the Matrix movies. But my DNA, I wouldn't say it's alien in that way. No. Bit on the agents from Matrix, though. That movie freaked me out when I saw it, as it did a lot of people. But when we left the theater, I think we saw it opening night, my group of friends at the time, and they're like, Matt, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, that's the most terrifying movie I've seen in years. And they're like, why? And I'm like, those agents, Agent Smith, whoever made that movie, based those on the real Men in Black. That's how they really are. They show up in threes. They're creepy. They talk creepy. That all they needed was hats, and they would have been perfect. But
Yeah.
I don't know what they are, and that intuitively in my gut, no, I don't feel a connection that way. My blood's weird, but it ain't that weird.
Well, speaking of the Men in Black, my buddy Chris, and he wouldn't get into it, and I won't get into it, but he's retired military. He says the Vatican has their own faction of the Men in Black. And I said, well, tell me more. And he says, well, I can't.
I wouldn't be surprised. I heard long ago, and by long ago, I mean like the early 90s, that some of the Men in Black have a symbol on them from Shangri-La. I'm like, what? But when you get into the more interdimensional aspect of this, there's not a lot of difference between UFOs, fairies, Men in Black. It's all the masquerade from the outside. Aliens, other dimensional beings, who knows what. And the ancients, I'm sure, had a lot more communication with them than we do.
Yeah.
Well, he also was interviewed by a Man in Black after his UFO and non-human, I'll say alien encounter. But he said that guy was about, 6 foot tall, very slim, slender, the classic tie and suit. Although he said his tie had a very unusual geometrical shape to it, and it was like it looked as, he says, how you look at one of those pictures and you look at it one way, it changes, and the other way.
Oh, like on
the other way.
Like on the funky movie posters or the Cracker Jack box, you look at it, it switches its a face, and then it's a Halloween mirror. It's a gothic person.
Right.
Switch it, and they're a ghoul.
It kind of. He says it drew me in. He says there's something about that tie. He says it wouldn't surprise me if that tie was some kind of weapon. He says, but man, they interrogated me. He says, and I couldn't remember anything. He says, I kept telling him, I can't remember being gone for as long as you tell me I've been gone. This is the day as it happened, and but that was an MIB experience with a general of the base. And I looked up, and sure enough, the general was there at the time, and there was a lot of guys that I found that were there at the time that had sightings of UFOs, but no run-ins like him, except for a few other guys that'll remain nameless. But who wouldn't talk to him after they ran into these non-humans or these aliens or whatever, and the flying, and seeing the discs. So, but that's it. But the Montauk chair, you say it comes out of one of those things?
That's a half guess, half joke. It's one of those blanks I have to fill in. I'm not sure where the Montauk chair came from, but I've heard stories that it was not designed by humans, that it was modeled after, if not actually being, at least the initial chair. They refined the chair over the years, and they added a lot of computers to supplement it, old-fashioned computers. However people feel on the story of such characters as Duncan Cameron and Al Bielek and all of them, I think a lot of their story checks out as far as the physics of the base, where they had a chair, a concept, a construct that they got from somewhere. And maybe like the Nazis when they got their UFOs, where'd they get them? Where's the source of the technology? But it wasn't something they just cooked up in their own lab. That wasn't in-house designed. And I like to think that, well, we've got all these UFOs, how many bases? Not just Groom Lake, but also Wright-Patterson. We had the old T2 Foreign Technology Division. We've got facilities everywhere, I'm sure, that we've got stuff in storage. They they took the Philadelphia experiment technology to Montauk, and they needed a way to activate it. I'm being really fanciful here. I'm not saying this is the case. This is better for a movie than reality, but maybe this is how it works. I take it for what it's worth.
Well, and a lot of times, fact is stranger than fiction, I find.
Could be. UFO lore has it, and some films purport to show it. Can't verify the films, but again, maybe real, maybe not. That the UFO wreckage from Roswell has hand plates. There's no buttons or levers or doodads like that. It's more of an organic thing, the UFO. It's an amplifier for your psychic ability. You are the UFO. It's like the Ark of the Covenant. It's not the golden box. It's what's inside it. It's you. And all you need is the chair in your hands to complete the circuit with the entity of the UFO. Not to say it's alive, but it functions. I remember the story of Bob Lazar about when he first was shown the sports model out at S4. And he said he ran his hand along the craft and it didn't feel metallic. It felt more like skin. Or he said it was cold like metal, but sorry, it wasn't Lazar. It was people at the Roswell wreckage that said that the Roswell scraps could feel like skin. So I'm not saying it's alive. I'm just saying it's a technology beyond nuts and bolts metal. It's not welded together. Lazar said the whole craft was injection molded, like it was one single piece. No seams, no rivets, no nothing. So I don't know how.
It's really thin, too, is what I heard.
Yeah, I don't know how they'd rip a chair out anyway. Maybe it wasn't that UFO. I don't know. I'm just saying that if we got all this wreckage, someone may have made the connection. We need to awaken this technology, no matter how many computers we hook up to it, no matter how many surges of electricity we put into it. It's like at the beginning of the Avengers movie when they had the Tesseract and the pointed Stargate and Loki showed up. They were trying to make it work, but then they realized we need someone conscious that can awaken it, complete that circuit. We need the right frequency of DNA. We need a chair. We got a few junk UFOs. This one will do. Rip. Send it off to Long Island and strap those little average victims in there, and hey, we got this Stargate we found. Let's hook this up too and see what. They were throwing everything into the pot. By their own admission, they were only trying to work with anti-radar. We continue the Philadelphia experiment, where we all know how that went.
Oh, yeah.
And they realized very quickly that they were punching through time-space, and then they realized they could not only manipulate it, but manufacture it. And then they started 3D printing reality. Put someone in the chair, concentrate on an object like a can. In those Stranger Things, it's 11 does the thing with the can. Mm-hmm. In reality, they actually manifested the can out of nothing. And then they started making bigger objects. They realized literally they could imagine something and make it real. And that's how Montauk got shut down. Ultimately, the people sabotaged it, said, let's manufacture a monster. August 12th, 1983, out comes Junior and goes all Predator on the place.
Oh, man. No, now it makes sense what you're telling me. Not telling me, but on your thing about the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Think of it, and it's like choose the destructor, yeah.
It's what you manifest. We're in an illusion, a matrix. You can, and everyone has the ability, everyone listening to all within the sound of my voice, you all have the ability to manipulate the matrix. You all do. Anyone can use the force. You don't have to have the midichlorian count for it. That everyone.
Do you think that's what a lot of these people who do yoga and, backwards, upside down hanging, and, I fasted for 6 days, and, do you think that's all what they're trying to attain? I don't want to speak for all these people. It's not what I'm trying to do. But it seems like you meet that person who has 55 self-help books on the shelf, but they're not self-help at nothing.
It's external. It's technology. The true power. The Schwartz is within you, Lone Star. The Schwartz is with you. Forget the ring. I found the ring in a Cracker Jack box. It's got the funky illusion cover on it. But No, I don't think you need anything. And when you're talking about people that are doing all these things in altered states of consciousness, that's what it is. Whether you meditate or fast or do walking the hot coals, or you see the people that stick pins through their flesh and all that, the over and yeah, I can't bear to watch that stuff, but they do it endlessly. They're in an altered state of consciousness. Reality is not real. I mean, even scientists will tell you that the molecular structure is mostly nothing. Yes. If all, as Morpheus says, all the reality is electrical impulses interpreted by your brain, it's light. Well, Predator taught us we can bend light. Well, then you can bend reality. You just have to have the keys for it. And that's what I work on, finding those keys and sharing them for free, because everyone should be set free.
That's right.
I'm tired of this tyrannical reality. Time to shake it up a bit.
I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments in the chat room, and a giant alien said, "Comb the desert, man. We ain't found." And then
Spaceball.
I heard like years ago they were going to use Spaceballs 3 to search for Spaceballs 2, but it never worked out.
It's one of those.
Gotta.
They should, especially now with the Mouse Wars. There's so much to make fun of.
Yeah, but you can't. It's going to be hard to replace John Candy. He was, God, Uncle Buck. He's funny.
Yeah, unfortunately, but hey, there's some silver lining. I'm not saying I'm a fan either way. I'm still learning about him, but didn't Elon Musk recently make available the Spaceballs flamethrower? He made like 30,000 of them, and they all sold out. So they're out there.
I thought it was a power pack weapon from Nazi zombies. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Elon Musk, you want to impress me? Make a fully functioning nuclear accelerator backpack. I need to go ghost hunting.
Don't cross the streams.
Don't cross. Actually, that's true. Do you know that story? Do you want me? That's part of the Montauk project, actually.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so be a lot to absorb at once, but bear with me. The Montauk project, as I said, ended in 1983, August 12th, summer of 83. A short distance from Montauk, over at Martha's Vineyard, Dan Aykroyd was writing Ghostbusters. Don't cross the streams. Montauk works with the same technology that ultimately led to CERN, the Hadron Collider. And we're talking about bringing in things from other dimensions. Choose the form of the destructor. Now, Ghostbusters, one of my mentors at the American Film Institute, I was the last student of John DeCure before there was a purge of Americans in Hollywood when I was there, and only people loyal to the current mindset were kept on. John DeCure was the production designer of Ghostbusters, so he designed Gozer's Temple, and he taught me. He was my Obi-Wan. And I didn't get this from him, but through him I met people. That's how Hollywood works. You meet people, you go to parties, you take meetings, and you get invited to one-on-ones later on. And yeah, but if you look at Gozer's Temple, what is it? Oh, we got some police action in the background. Sorry, that's
live
audible.
PD. All right, the show's complete. Just kidding.
Gozer's Temple is 2 towers, 11, Masonic 2 towers, however you want to look at it, 9/11, and it's a pyramid with an illuminated top. It's all the symbols right there, and the Scarlet Woman is Dana Barrett, out of Crowleyism. You have to think of, when they're describing Ivo Shandor, think of Aleister Crowley, and substitute New York for Pasadena, and then I can take the story there as well. Crowley, JPL, Hubbard, Parsons, rocketry, so-called space science, and interdimensional, what they're really doing. So a lot there to absorb, but basically Montauk is doing what they fictionalized in Ghostbusters. They're bringing things through from another dimension and choosing the form thereof. And not the nicest people are in charge of these programs. New World Order.
Yeah.
Don't want them to weaponize that and have a Montauk chair in every military base to bend reality at will. That's
And then you have Dogman running around everywhere. Now, do you think that's what some of these things that people have cited are? Things that they've actually manifested and have escaped never to be seen again?
You mean like the Montauk Monster?
Well, I don't know if it would be that one in particular, but I'm just saying there could be other things that they've done that have escaped that nobody knows about.
I think all through history there have been interdimensional cross rips, and things have come and gone. Back through mythology probably would account for some of the crazier creatures. And even today, modern times, I remember back in the 90s, you had the goat sucker in Puerto Rico. And maybe that was an escaped genetic thing, a freaky experiment, but maybe it was an interdimensional. And nowadays you see these shadow people, Hat Man, weird things coming through all the time. I saw a few years ago this green slime on the ground that was alive and had like a pink tongue. It's the weirdest thing. Then there's like Spider-Man, that thing in Russia that was crawling up a building, 2 or 3 story, like spidery human being. And what the hell?
Yeah, I thought, I've seen that, but I didn't know if that was real or fake. I put it in my grave.
Well, I just think all through history we've had things slipping between dimensions. I think it's a common thing. In some points in history and maybe some places on Earth, it's more concentrated. Bermuda Triangle, for example. And then certainly our nefarious factions of governments have found ways to weaponize it for their own purposes. Like electricity. Electricity is natural. Lightning happens. But we can also manufacture the hardware to do it. So you have both things happening simultaneously that confuses things. Some interdimensional creatures wander through. Some are brought through.
Mm-hmm.
I think that... And then you have competing factions. Like right now, we have competing HARP machines across the world, throwing hurricanes at each other. I think that we have competing time technology in a way. Maybe that's what Terence McKenna meant in the 90s when he said after 2012, time would go nonlinear. I've even heard government sources talking about time wars. Years
Time laws?
Time wars. Like
Time wars, no.
Like not like a war like with armies and soldiers, but think like espionage, like the Men in Black 3, where you have to set the timeline right, and that's just part of the job. And that might also be more common than people think.
Well, I think a lot of the time lapses, to me, going through all this stuff, CERN, trying to collide the AKA God particle together and recreate the Big Bang. Like, what do you expect to happen? And they do it repeatedly. And who's to say, like, these little instances or changes or whatever aren't happening? But yeah.
Or searching for the particle, simply what they're telling us. And they've used search to go a lot further. I mean, they have to publicly disclose the machine, but they don't have to publicly disclose its full use.
Yeah.
They always tell us, we're building an airfield out here. Area 51 is used for training.
Yeah.
Training. What about the UFOs? CERN, we're looking for the particle. What else is going on? They're not going to tell us.
So, getting back to some of the questions in the chat room, we have Jade Art, and her question kind of goes along with Jason Hotep's, but Jade is asking, does Matt know his blood type, and if so, does he think that has any connection to his experiences?
I've never had it tested. I've heard of the RF blood type or whatever it is, the RF2, or I probably get that wrong, but I'm actually kind of afraid to check. I should at some point, but I have not at this point, no. Sorry.
Okay, and Dale was wondering, how do you know your DNA is very weird?
Just the circumstances surrounding it. We've only touched on things so far, but my story has so many things happen and so many things inside lead back to the DNA. It's literally written in stone in Roslyn Chapel. It's a thesis, I'll admit, but I've been through over 100 film commentaries now. I've been working with this. I've presented this thesis to the 33rd degree Masons, and they all look at me like, we can't deny this. How did you figure this out? And I'm like,
I just know. Like, I get that too. Like, I just know.
It was all my life.
Yeah.
It's just there.
Dell wondering, going back to Star Wars, how do you use the Force or Spaceballs?
All it takes is faith and trust and a little bit of pixie dust. No, you just have to will it. You have to want it. It's pure desire. It's a separation from the ego. The ego is false desire. It's desire society has told you need. You need all these likes on Facebook to feel good. You need this fashion to feel sexy. You need to have this money to feel like a success. No, no, no. All I need is to sit here in peace and quiet with whatever makes me comfortable and daydream. Or as George Carlin said, every day I think all children should have 3 hours of daydreaming. Just daydream. Right. Let them stare at a tree. It's good for them. Mm-hmm. But using the source is a matter of not being distracted by all the noise, all of the golden calves, if you will, of every shape, size, and color, and just focusing on what's important. And really, at the end of the day, that's every spiritual, religious lesson. You need, the simple things in life, and love each other. When you are in tune with that, it just becomes more clear. A good example of using the source outside of anger and energy, which is pretty self-explanatory, I like to talk to animals, and I don't do it with words. I calm my mind, and I think with feelings. I just try and feel how they might feel, and then I try and look at myself through their eyes. I don't try, do or do not. I create a connection where we're almost one. Where you just, when I pet my cat, I try and feel how I would want to be petted, and I can read his reactions, like, no, not there, or yes, I'm drooling, pet me there. Mm-hmm. But you listen, the purring, the scratching, all these things, there's more to it than that. You can feel like, I would like that. That's how I would like it. And you just get used to being that way, and I don't have a cell phone, for example. I don't have that distraction. Using the force or using the source is like, it's like, I guess, like dancing or anything. You got to stretch, you got to limber up and get your body warmed up, and then you do it. Everyone right now is so distracted by technologies that they don't even realize it's possible. Mm-hmm. All I can stress is less technology, less cell phone. Get rid of the fluoride in all the good conspiracy stuff. Get rid of the fluoride in your water, because that calcifies your pineal gland. It slows your cosmic computer down. Heal your pineal gland as best you can. I will make a biblical recommendation here, although you can extrapolate it to modern terminology. Go back and read Exodus and Moses using canna balsam. It decalcifies your pineal gland. It's a radio for speaking to God. And it's within everybody's reach.
I'm staying on track with the whole bloodline stuff, and I'm kind of skipping around on questions because I kind of want to stay on the same point. But Adder Alien, he corrected me last time. Have you done an Ancestry DNA or 23andMe test? And I'm thinking from what you said before that you didn't, right?
I have done Ancestry with the deMille name when I was in Hollywood. But before I answer that, I want to back up a bit and explain the source in one other way that I think is probably a better answer than I gave. You have to, when I mentioned the UFO being an amplifier for yourself, and you put your hands on the plates and it completes the circuit, most people know the Bob Lazar theory, the Event Horizon movie of the folding space and time. Right? Yeah. The gravity generator. Okay. It's not a propulsion system. It's a gravity amplifier, according to Lazar. And it folds space so the points are connected instantly without travel between. Okay, but if the UFO is like the computer, the chip is you. You're the chip. You have to focus on what it's doing, and the way it works is you focus on a destination, a reality that you want, and you just believe that's the way it is. And reality sort of shuffles into position. Picture the end of the original Star Wars 4, A New Hope, the Death Star trench. Luke, you've turned off your targeting computer. You know the rest. Luke focused on not can I get the shot. He just focused on those proton torpedoes are already in there. And that's just the way reality is. And you believe it. When you felt this in your lives, when you're jamming on a video game, when you're in that groove, you're not thinking about doing it. You already believe it's already done. Mm-hmm. That is like the gravity amplifier. You're focusing on the destination, and you just get there. You don't let yourself be distracted. Can this happen or not? The moment that happens, you're Wile E. Coyote looking down and
oops.
That's how it is. So, and back to the bloodline, I had other people do the genealogy for me because they wanted me in the club. They said, "No, Matt, do you realize who you are?" And I'm like, "No." Why don't you come over? We'll talk about it. And I'm like, well, I trust you've done the research, and this is all very impressive, but I won't cross that line. Thank you very much. So that's the research. I had other people do it for me.
Well, and sometimes that's the best way. Can't do it all on your own.
No, only so many hours in the day.
Yeah, we got priorities. But going back to the bloodline, you were talking earlier about the father of Hollywood, Cecil, and your relation to him. What is your lineage to Cecil?
For those that don't know, Cecil B. DeMille is regarded as the father of Hollywood. He opened the first studio, and he was largely responsible for the original studios all getting started. He talked to the bankers. Being a Mason probably helped. Much of Hollywood was built by Freemasons. Griffith Observatory, Jimmy Kimmel's studio was the first Masonic temple in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Disneyland is all Masonry. That's why Club 33 and the 33rd Parallel and Skull and Bones of the Caribbean. It was a Masonic architect. And yes, Disney is an honorary 33rd. I've clarified that at the Grand Lodge for anyone curious. He didn't go through the rituals, but he was given the title. And that doesn't mean much, though. Shaquille O'Neal's got it, too.
Yeah.
But DeMille built Hollywood. He is the godfather of Hollywood. I mean, the Ten Commandments he made twice. He made it in 1923 in a silent film era. Then he made it 33 years later with Charlton Heston. And I was never into religion. Like I said, I was more of a George Carlin guy and more of an Agent Mulder, UFOs, nuts and bolts. And when I went, but I open to all things. I always said, if an angel shows up, I'll listen. But so far, that's changed in the last 7 years, mind you. But at the time, I didn't think anything of it. Okay, DeMille, that's nice. But the bloodline, apparently, as others tried to tell me, look, Matt, you're not getting this. It goes back to the 19th century, maybe the 18th at its very earliest, but out of Denmark, which oddly I just learned yesterday was the inspiration for Disneyland. There's a park in Denmark. Everyone in Europe knows about it. Disney visited it, and it was built in 1843. It's got the pirate ship and Disney ripped it off blatantly. It's Trivium or Trivial or something like that. Mm-hmm. I forget. But anyway, the bloodline came to America, and then it split. And it went. One branch went to Canada in the 19th century, and the other branch went to Hollywood. My branch went to Canada, obviously, and ended up in Pacific Northwest, and Cecil's branch went to Hollywood. But he's probably my great-grandfather, I think, is what it boils down to. Or that's where the split happened. We have a great-grandfather in common. So it's a distant bloodline. But in Hollywood, that's all you need. Mm-hmm. All you need is the gimmick. They all live their gimmick, is to borrow from pro wrestling.
Yeah.
They're all living the kayfabe. Jim Morrison's producer was named Rothschild. Not part of the family, but that's all he needed. That's how it works. It's all a show. They all believe their own hype. They have to, because reality is ugly without it. To them, the vampires don't like to look in the mirror.
Well, supposedly they can't see their own reflection, or maybe there's something they don't want to see.
I think it's. I always took vampires as more metaphorical. They can see a reflection, but they don't like to look at themselves.
Yeah,
Because
it's just
they know what they are.
They're disgusted by the image.
Yeah.
So another question from the chat room comes from Julien Latour, and his question is, are aliens water-based?
I think there are many types of aliens. I've actually heard the government speak more of them being plant-based. There's a lot of lore about them being more botanical creatures. And that's why the original 1950s Thing was a plant-based creature. They were telling us. And at the end of that movie, when he says, watch the skies, that's why Steven Spielberg was going to call Close Encounters originally Watch the Skies, because it was like an unofficial sequel to The Thing. By the way, Spielberg never, ever once mentions aliens in that movie. He leaves you to fill in the blank yourself. They come from outer space, but he never says it.
Yeah.
But I think there are many forms of aliens. I think them coming and going is the norm in the cosmos, not the exception. So there's not one race. There are many, many civilizations, and maybe some are water-based, some are not. There's probably so much variety, we could never categorize them all anyway. Anything's possible. It's like the Star Wars Cantina. They're all in there.
Yeah, and I say that a lot. That's one of my major lines is, I believe anything is possible. Because I have been surprised so many times. I can't deny things until I know for certain.
Are you familiar with Sergeant Major Robert Dean and the assessment from the 60s?
No.
Sergeant Major Robert Dean was assigned to SHAPE, Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe, in the 60s. And there were a number of events where UFOs kept flying over Europe, and they thought it was the Soviets, and the Soviets thought it was NATO, SHAPE. And Robert Dean was privileged to read a study they did while he was there called The Assessment. And it turned out to be a report on UFOs. And even in 1964, when he read it, they had concluded there were 4 species they were dealing with, not just one. And how much has happened since then? Now, a curious bit about that, because I have to be honest and full disclosure of what I know, that whole study might be bogus in and of itself because it was headed up by General Lyman Limnitzer. Limnitzer's the one who approved Operation Northwoods, the 9/11 attack on Florida in the 60s. So who do you trust?
Yeah.
But I believe they were dealing with 4 species at least. That's an internal document. Only 15 copies were made, I think. So it was a very, Sergeant Major Dean said he had to have a cosmic top secret clearance to read it. Funny name for that clearance level.
Talk about cosmic Watergate.
But 9/11 was a cosmic gate. It was a interdimensional, it was Ghostbusters. Something terrible entered our world, and the 2 towers were obviously the door, the gateway, just like the...
Do you think it was supernatural?
Yes. On top of everything else, it was multi-layered. Solomon Building, and they got their 4-point-some billion insurance, and the New World Order got their geopolitical wars. But on top of everything else, they got so much dark energy concentrated. We went from an optimistic world to a live in fear. They've harvested dark energy ever since. It was like, it's the gift that keeps on giving to them. The incident itself was a dimensional crossroads. It was Ghostbusters.
Well, I think they were using so many different technologies at the time. Tools from Tesla and Einstein and other people. These directional tools that radiate, and one of them you could see people taking off their clothes before they jumped, which is a terrible picture, them jumping anyways. They were nowhere near the fire. There was no reason for them to be overheated, but this weapon was being used, and so they felt like they were overheating. They were very hot, so they were taking their clothes off and then jumping because of the confusion of it all. And then the other one that is radiation focused, it causes the building to break up into dust as it's falling. You don't see the bricks colliding or anything like that. You don't see all the rubble at the bottom that should be stories high. It's just falling and turning into dust, and you can see one of the bricks right in front of the building. That's another focused radiatory weapon. There were several different things there, and I do believe that the paranormal was involved, as well as, there was a nurse there, a ghost nurse, and she was tending to the spirits that were there. I don't know where she came from, but I know of that story. But, using those weapons and not knowing how it affects your environment, I could see opening some sort of door or portal or, to another dimension, as you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Be careful what you wish for.
Right.
And intense. There could have been things that slipped through at the time. There could be things still coming. Look at Stranger Things. The portal left open.
Mm-hmm.
And
that show. It's awesome.
And about the people, now I'm not sure if it was a suitcase nuke from the Mossad, that at least, but I think it was directed energy. I believe Dr. Judy Wood. I think she's the most correct so far. But when you're dealing with those frequencies, you're messing with physics as we know it, and things can come through. They've tested with this before. I could talk at length about Hollywood rituals with Back to the Future and Doomtown Crystal Skulls, because that's all the same. Marty McFly was originally supposed to use a refrigerator, basically. Indiana Jones decades later, but it's all the same thing. Nuclear and other high energy events. Tunguska. And back to 9/11 and the people taking off their clothes. It brings to mind, if you're familiar with the Dyatlov Pass incident in the 1950s in Russia.
No.
Mm-hmm.
That one will keep you up at night. Don't study
one
that.
That keeps me up at night.
No, this one will scare everybody.
Let's set another one.
In the 1950s, there was a Soviet scientific expedition. It's called Dyatlov Pass incident, I think. There have been bad movies made about it. Don't go to those. They found the aftermath. It's like the beginning of Predator when they find the skinned bodies. What happened to them? What they found of the Dyatlov Pass was apparently the people out there in the Russia, somewhere snow as deep as the tent, they're in their tent, and something terrified them so bad they ripped their way out of the tent, took off their clothes, and fled into the snow and died.
Oh, man.
Was this something interdimensional? I mean, they're in, 10-foot snow. They're taking off their clothes. Why? Some sort of energy disturbance, perhaps. Microwaving effect with an interdimensional event. Or some sort of energy directed by our good old governments on all points of the globe.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I have to flip back in my notes to when Jack Mackerel's feeding me all kinds of info on conspiracies. I don't like to say conspiracy theories because, a lot of these to me aren't theories, but he was talking about... Go ahead.
I told the Masons once, I said, if you really want to talk to me, I just ask you don't use the word conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
To me, that's a profane word. That's an insult. That's a racist slur to me. Let me tell you about 1967, the Warren Commission, and how programmed you all still are if you're using that. Don't go there. Conspiracy researcher. That works for me. Conspiracy theory. That's like people saying, she's a witch. She's a witch. I'm like, jeez.
Yeah.
They're not
Calm
people.
down. Go have some tea.
You best start.
Come on.
You best start believing in conspiracy theories. You're in.
Yeah. Just
All
look
are.
around you.
Look around. Chemtrails, Bilderberg. It's everywhere. Can't get away from it.
Well, I got people, angry at me because I haven't read their questions yet, and I'm like, dude, we're like
I'm sorry.
discussing stuff.
Let's
and
ask
I
me
don't.
questions. I'm not afraid. Let's knock them down.
All right, well, this one is a bit off base with what we've been discussing tonight, but it is on key as far as SOR, Spaced Out Radio, and it's Team Stump or Team Rock, and we're talking about Devil's Tower. Are you familiar with that?
The Stephen King or the Wyoming location?
I believe the Wyoming location. So
Close Encounters.
Jason is asking, is Matt on Team Stump or Team Rock? So there's I
have only just learned of them.
Okay. Well, if you look at the picture, I don't know if you can pull it up at the moment, but
I've got audio only. Sorry.
Okay.
No vision.
Well, it looks like a tree that has been chopped down. It's in the shape of a stump. Some people are saying it's just a rock or volcanic formation, and others are saying it's a petrified tree from back in the day of the giants. So yeah, unless you can see the picture, you can't really.
I know Devil's Tower very well. To borrow from Richard Dreyfuss, I built it in my living room.
That'd be awesome.
Now, back to Close Encounters and how Spielberg never said that they were aliens. There is something else he talked about in that movie, though. Pinocchio. He brings up Pinocchio. Remember, they're going to go see Pinocchio, and then the power goes out? Pinocchio. Translation. Pineal ocular. Talking about the third eye. That's why it all goes dark at that point. The Devil's Tower is symbolic of your 2 eyes of 3. It doesn't have a top. It's the same as the back on the $1 bill, the illuminated pyramid. It's Gozer's temple. It's the Star Wars crawl. It's Mount Sinai. It's Rocky's steps. It's all the same ritual. They're all telling you to look at your pineal gland. As for the mountain itself, I don't know if it's a tree because I hate to sound too scientific here. Where's another one? I mean, maybe
they're all over the place, I've heard.
But I mean,
they're not close together, but they're quite spaced apart.
That big. I mean, I could buy it. I could buy anything. We got towers on the moon that are like 4 miles high. I mean, we could have anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard the volcanic thesis as well, that there was a cone that built up and stopped, and then the cone has deteriorated, leaving the hardened stoppage fossilized. That's more probable, but who knows? It could be an ancient alien monument, maybe like a Mount Rushmore they built, and we haven't even, it could be anything. It's certainly, I mean, it looks like a tree stump.
Mm-hmm.
It could be. And even though I think it's more likely geological, like I said, I have been wrong before, including about, of all things, the Philadelphia experiment, which is the basis of the Montauk project and a lot. The Philadelphia experiment years ago, I thought, is one thing that's probably exaggerated. That's one thing probably not. Then it turned out to be key in my life. I used to think that I wasn't as much of a defender of Christianity as I am now. A little bit of Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
God showed up. So It could be a tree. I've been wrong before. I don't know. But I'd lean towards a volcano that had some sort of stoppage, and then the volcano has changed around it like the casting of a mold.
So what you're really trying to say is you're Team Rock.
I'm Team 3. I'm Team always alternatives. There's always another possibility we haven't thought of.
Well, I'm Team Stump. Like, I've seen the petrified forest, and I actually had my own piece of petrified wood. And when I look at that, I see the grains coming down from the tree and all this other stuff. And you can even see the off-kilter, cut of the tree as you would cut a tree so it would fall a certain direction. To me, thinking that anything is possible, I see, I am Team Stump. What about you, Jason?
I don't have enough information.
I did not know that about the top. Sorry to interrupt there.
Yeah, it's actually kind of teetered, like you would cut a tree with a little, indentation going up top. And I'm like, dude, a giant totally cut down this tree. And somebody asked me, well, what did he cut it down for? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe he needed a back deck or something. I'm not sure. I wasn't around. I don't know. But
Well, all legends do talk about that. Even Tolkien has that in his mythology, the great trees
nice.
of the world. And then you get into Yggdrasil and the chakra system. The sacred tree is there.
Yeah, and perhaps there's like one for each continent or something. I know
Could
they're
be.
like spread all over the place, and there's just one in one area. You don't see a volcano or anything in the area, and you're just like, what is this?
I'm going to have to take a closer look. I should
More
try
research.
something.
Yes. Okay, so Christopher in the chat room is asking or saying, I'm wondering with all these really bad storms, is there manipulation of the weather going on?
Yes.
I feel the same, yes.
It would have happened anyway. We're in the precessional cycle. The ice age is, the planet is doing its precessional 13,000 year tilt. It's Atlantean cycle. But the powers that be have known this is coming, and they've used it to their advantage. For example, they knew the world was going to get colder, so for 20 years they told us, global warming, so pay your carbon taxes and give us hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And they've aggravated it. I think that if you look at all the planets in the solar system right now, they're all experiencing climate change. The source of the problem is the sun going through a cyclical whatever, grand solar minimum. And we have, like humans often do, aggravate the problem. We don't make it better, we make it worse. Chemtrails. I think back in the 50s or 60s, these government idiots said, we know this whole horrible solar, grand solar minimum is coming, but we can deflect it. But
yeah.
That's like people, they short-sighted. They see something for the moment. They don't see the long-term abuse of it. They don't see all the people profiteering from it, doing it much more than they need to until it poisons us far worse than the solar radiation ever would have. And now we got more problems because we disrupt the ecosystem. And you ever see the movie Mouse Hunt? Where they're trying to fix up the house and they just keep making it worse?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we're doing with the planet, with our weather manipulation, with our HARP machines and our geoengineering and our chemtrailing. We probably had noble intentions that were quickly, if not from the get-go, with plans before the get-go to be misused. And now we're 50, 60, 70 years in with a big mess. I'm not sure we can clean up between Fukushima, all the chemtrail fallout, all these years, decades.
Yeah. I went to California, speaking of Fukushima, and my sister was so excited. Oh, we're going to the beach, and I'm going to go swimming, and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, I am not touching that water. I'm not going near it. I believe it's highly radiated. Like, not only did Fukushima melt down, but before that was making deposits on the mountain right behind it and having the melt off, and all this stuff is running into the ocean. It has made its way here. I am not getting in that water.
I gave up eating fish about 4 or 5 years ago. I don't eat any seafood because I don't trust anything from the Pacific anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, actually, now.
It is. We're in very grim times. We were warned these were coming, and they're probably going to get worse before they get better. Sorry to scare anyone there, but better to face it. I recommend probably everyone in this audience is prepped. When these hurricane zones happen, I wonder how many people in those zones made fun of preppers.
Yeah. Well, I kind of made a boo-boo on my page, and I got my butt crawled by one person. Everybody was laughing at it, and I have a sick sense of humor, I must admit. My dad raised me that way. But it was a picture of the flooding in the Carolinas, and there was the Loch Ness Monster, and it said CNN has spotted the Loch Ness in Carolinas.
I saw that.
Yeah, and I thought it was really funny, but this one guy was just talking about how it was too soon and I need to have respect, which I didn't mean any disrespect or any harm to anybody. I like to laugh at things during times of stress. I think laughter is the best medicine, so I was just like, whatever, you can take it wrong if you want to. I'm just trying to have some positive aspect here, but...
No, that was funny, I thought.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, me too. I laughed. I did.
I guess we're just thick and macabre.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a lot of people that want to, I don't mean virtue signaling in the modern way, but in a broader sense, people like to point out faults rather than do anything about it. Clearly, people, not everyone can be down there to help. Maybe spreading humor is one way of helping. At least you're doing something. You're not just putting other people down for not helping. You're helping in your own way. You're thousands of miles away. What can you do? But a little humor is always welcome. A little levity.
I agree.
And it may not be all that we think. I mean, everyone see that picture of Mockingbird Cooper and his crew high and dry? He's pretending to be in waist-deep water, and his crew are up there high and dry 10 feet away. And I'm like, here we go again. More green screen nose jobs from Cooper. And they have to be able to question these things. I'm sure people would say I'm being insensitive of the people that are flooded out for focusing on Cooper. You got to question everything. And you have to be able to laugh at everything too. And you're the person when you can do that.
Yeah, I think it makes you better. It's good to have that lightening of the heart. But Ad here in the chat room is like, I'm in Charlotte, Tess. How dare you? Well, I apologize. But that was a funny picture, not a funny situation. And I even told this guy earlier, I lived in Tornado Alley. I've been through hurricanes when I was in the military. I moved and did not live in those areas because I knew what was going to happen. Common sense prevails. Let's be smart about it. If you decide to stay in that situation, I feel like it's your own fault. It's not like it's the first time, but I really do pray for those people that are stuck in that and all the stuff that they've lost, because I know stuff is important to people, but...
It's unbelievable. I mean, not to downplay the damage. I mean, it's horrible, but that's why you have to have levity. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, so depressed, we'll just want to all kill each other because there won't be any reason to live.
Yeah, you got to look at the light side of it, and you know what? You're still alive. And I think people put too much weight on their personal possessions. Maybe your home or pictures, things you can't replace. But at the same time, you still have your life, and you can still replenish those things. It's not the end of the world. It might feel like it at the moment, and my love and prayers are sent to them, but there are more important things than your earthly possessions.
Oh, I'm glad I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I don't know, just sitting here thinking, would it have been any worse if somebody would have put up a photo of a jet skier cruising the waters? I mean, I only say that because I've seen people do it, and even in dire situations when, they get flooded out here, in rushing waters and people are stranded in their vehicles. Sometimes they, I don't know. I see the guy's point, but I'm old school, Matt, I think that's
well, on that note, guys, I hate to interrupt, but we got to go to our second break. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Thiemer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month, where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. It's hour number 3 of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa N Thomas. Follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now back to the Rocky Mountains. Here's Tessa.
Hello. So great to have you guys all on tonight, listening with me and chatting with me in the chat rooms. I really enjoy it. And thank you so much to Matt for being our guest this evening, and Jason for joining us. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you again for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you guys feel like we were done with that last topic? Did you have anything else to add before I go on to the next question?
One thing, if I may, I'm glad I had the intro where I said I'm not a nice guy. I want to say, we were talking during the break a little bit, Jason and I truly feel bad for everyone that goes through a natural disaster. I mean, you lose your memorabilia, your precious irreplaceables, your memories. I live in fear of such a thing happening here. I'm in the path of Mount Rainier. I'm 70 miles away. If the Ring of Fire goes, I'm toast. We're waiting for an 8-pointer earthquake around here, and I'm right on the fault line, so I'm ready for it. But we have to joke about these things, and we have to question these things, because if we don't, they get away with it again and again and again. 9/11, when that happened, I didn't buy it, and I said, "Wait a minute, where was our interceptors? Oh, don't be insensitive." Well, people needed to ask questions because we all know the official story is bogus. We know that now, but imagine if everyone asked that then. Nowadays, we're getting harped. We're getting, this hurricane was pushed into people. If they say, "Don't be insensitive, don't tell me conspiracy theories," you're going to get hit again and again and again. At some point, I'm sorry, we have to be able to approach this subject now to put an end to it. So I'm sorry to be, anyone going through it, but I don't want people to think it's like, well, I don't care about you. Someone has to be the agent in the room to stand up and say, what is going on? And so if people want to consider me rude or insensitive, that's fine, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was it. That's just my point. Yeah.
Well, Ad in the chat room was saying, "Tess, please tell him I was joking," and I understand that. We all have our humor, and like I said before, I have a sick sense of humor, and, like I said, I send love and light to these people, and I hope that they get out of this situation. And if you don't like the situation you're in, move out of it. That's the best thing to do. I know there's roots for people and places, and you kind of feel like if I move away from here, I'm losing that piece of me. But you can always go back and visit and do these other things. But, I've been through hurricanes while in the military. I've been through tornadoes growing up in Arkansas and such. And I moved from there because I didn't like it and the things that happened in my life due to it. And I don't want to be insensitive at all. I really do feel for these people, and I'm sending my love, light, and prayers to them. But at the same time, like my dad used to always tell me, if you don't like it, lump it. Like, if you don't like it, then move out of that place and don't go through that again. Don't re-traumatize yourself. Get out while the getting's good, and let's move on with our life. But, the guy was also saying, when he was crawling on my butt earlier about the Loch Ness Monster in the Carolinas, I just lost my train of thought. Let me move my head around a little bit. But I'm not trying to be insensitive or insulting or whatever. I guess the timing was too soon. I should have waited a week or two more. But I did find the humor in it, and we should all laugh at ourselves. If you're not listening to what he was saying, I was making fun of the news because it said CNN reported this. But it wasn't that. I wasn't making fun of the news or anything like that. Like, I like to watch the news every day in my latter years because I like to be informed of what's going on from different perspectives. And no, I was not poking fun at the news or the people. I just thought it was a funny picture, and I laughed at it, and I thought I should share that laughter with other people who might be going through this. But I can see the different perspective of this person has something destructive going on in their lives, and they're losing a lot, and those things can be hard to get over, but you're still alive, and move on and move out and take care of yourself and your family. And I don't know. I just feel like I'm digging my hole deeper.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. And
well, moving on to a happier note, Ad was asking in the chat room, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
what do you mean? African or European swallow?
And I like to ask these questions from the chat room, and Adnome and Adder Alien, however you pronounce that, because it makes people laugh. It makes me laugh, and I like my daily dose of medicine.
As do we all.
So, what is your answer to that?
What was the question? The swallows?
What is the air speed velocity of an unladen swallow? It was the question.
I answered it with a question.
Yes. That's the best route.
Actually, someone said sorry for that. I want to back up a bit and say, no worries. I got thick skin. I dish it out. I can take it. I'm actually holding back. I got a sixth sense of humor myself. I'm very much holding back and keeping it PG here. If you ever visit YouTube, fair warning, I offend everybody. Profanity, slurs, bad taste, really bad taste. I cut loose. So if you got a sixth sense of humor, okay, you'll be fine. But joking about this disaster or that disaster, we have to. If we're always there's a disaster always somewhere in the world. Mm-hmm. If we're obligated to always be down and hanging our heads, we're never going to look up, ever. So, we got whatever happened to sticks and stones, Mm-hmm. Let's throw some bad taste jokes around and
everybody's so sensitive these days and so easily offended, and I'm just over here like, get the sand out of your vagina and move on. Let's go.
And I don't
Where's
want
the water hose?
I don't want to make the comparison. People going through a flood is a real an issue of major suffering, but our culture is so. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. I need my safe space. There's another shooting allegedly. We need a safe space for the college kids, and I'm like, is this our culture? Whatever happened to taking it head on and, dealing with it? You got to have an excuse for it. You can't be insensitive about anything. And I'm like, this
Where's
world.
Your hide? Where's your thick hide? Or your duck feathers?
The human race used to be a whole lot tougher. What happened?
Right. I know. I wonder that.
Too many soy lattes, man.
Stay away from the soy.
Soy.
Oh, it's funny. They made this reference 30 years ago, Matt. You'll probably remember. If you're looking for the frozen yogurt, buddy, it went out of business last summer. Remember in Lost Boys? That was 87.
Oh.
And they're still.
Well, I think so far I only see one more question in the chat room. And this is from BTO, and he was wondering if I ever even got his question. And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, it's taken a while to get through this stuff. But BTO is wondering, are the elites and most in Hellywood soulless beings disguised as humans, clones, and or humans possessed by malevolent reptilian beings?
Again, it's the Star Wars cantina. It's a mixed bag, but 99% are human beings that don't know the industry they're working in, or if they do, they play along with it, because as I was just talking about, humans have this ability to go into denial. They don't tell me, I don't want to know. 9/11, I'm telling the official story. It's not just ugly realities that they can't deal with. It's on a big scale, personal as well. When people are in Hollywood and they learn that, there's corruption going on, well, I just want to keep my job. That's a lot. That's what most of it is, or is totally ignorant to it one way or the other. Although I fail to see how that town is such a small town mentality. Everyone knows everyone. I don't see how anyone in that town can claim they don't know what's going on. I mean, I didn't.
Like in Germany, back in the Nazi days, when their cremating thousands and thousands of people, even babies who are still alive, and there's
People
ashes falling upon people, and they're like, "Hey, what is this? Like, I have no idea what this smell and these ashes are. Like, give me a freaking break." Denial is the worst.
Yeah. Have you all got your flu shots yet?
Yeah, no.
Don't bother me with that conspiracy theory. I'm going to get my flu shot and be safe. Have a nice time being sick this season. I'm not going to be sick.
It always
Not
makes me sick.
No, those things are killer. I haven't had a flu shot in years, and I haven't had a sickness in years. But they're told. I lost a friend that was a nurse because I was telling her, look into this vaccine stuff, and she's like, nope. Nazi Germany, they're lighting the ovens. Nope, it isn't happening. Fukushima's not happening. Chemtrails are not happening. Look up. Nope, not good. Nope. That's how people are. So in Hollywood, Hollywood is a very powerful drug. I went in there Joe Friday. It was corrupting me it's like the Ring of Doom from Mordor. It will corrupt anybody. You can't escape. It's just a matter of time. You find yourself moving the line, compromising your principles, making excuses in a very short amount of time. So I imagine anyone that's there as a career, I was there for 3 years, and that was enough. I imagine people that are there 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. They're so lost in the corruption, they don't know what honesty is anymore. They just know the game to play. So 99% of people are humans in a very sick business, but I'd have to say compliant. But there are those that are possessed, and I will say that literally. Those are your top people, studio people as well as in front of camera people. A lot of rock stars when they have their switches, Katy Perry, Madonna, those types. Do they have a demon inside them or an alternate personality, MK Ultra programming, something like that? Most definitely. They are not putting on an act. These people are enslaved in some way, and there's a variety of ways. They'll get you one way or the other, and it's proportional to your use. The more valuable you are, the more likely you are to get a possession. The more expendable you are, the more likely they are to just program you with mind control and then toss you aside when you're done, when you've served your purpose.
Mm-hmm. We're done with you. Move on now.
Yeah. Who was the one that Brittany shaved her head?
Yeah.
Had a program meltdown. They're done with her. Lady Gaga, your turn is coming. But Madonna, she's not going anywhere. She's the Baphomet queen, As far as clones, cloning technology exists, but I don't think clones is much of anything in practical use because it's not necessary. It's all theater there. It's all gimmick. You don't need a duplicate of a person. You just need to pretend to be a person. I think cloning is probably more like, I think the first public cloning of a person in 2002, I think the day Attack of the Clones announced its title, actually, it was 2001, was this rich Arab oil baron type of guy, They're going to vanity projects of cloning, duplicating their children themselves and things like. Hollywood is full of a bunch of lunatics that are expendable.
Well, you fondly refer to Hollywood as Hellywood. What's up with that? Tell us your experience within Hellywood.
I didn't believe in God until I met the devil. Right. I know about demonic possession firsthand. I mentioned Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Parsons, Hubbard, Pasadena, Crowley, and Ivo Shandor as a counterpart. Hollywood, the 1987 Dragnet with Dan Aykroyd, Tom Hanks? Pagan Festival with the Goat's Pants Dance?
Oh, yeah.
That stuff is... They didn't have to make that up for the movie. That town is full of satanic people. Whether you believe in a devil or not, they believe in it. Mm-hmm. Cutting the record, signing your name in blood, a lot of these things are not figurative. These are rituals. And then they all go up to party at Bohemian Grove for the summer,
Yeah, nasty.
Yeah. And I'm sure everyone here saw the now banned InfoWars videos of the spirit cooking with Abramovich and the blood on the walls a couple years ago, right before the election. The WikiLeaks dumped all that stuff on the public. That's the tip of the iceberg. You have various factions in Hollywood. You have the Jewish mafia, you have the communist mafia, or the red mafia, as I call them, the gay mafia, that's the name they call themselves, and then you have the satanic mafia, and I think they're the ones that are in charge.
And we've got the Amish mafia, too. Watch out, boys and girls.
Oh,
the game has changed.
They're dangerous. So dangerous.
Clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop, bang. Oh, what was that? Sorry.
Oh, don't mess with those Amish. They could have Harrison Ford and Weird Al amongst them. That's a dangerous tag team. They mess you up.
So, SOR's cat was wondering, what would happen if we used HARP to attack the Hadron Collider at just the right moment? And she said, sorry, that's my megalomania mad scientist side speaking.
I'm not sure you'd need HARP. You could just put CERN on overload and blow itself up. HARP like an earthquake, but CERN is deep underground, and probably the tubes are flexible. They've designed that. When I heard Elon Musk talking about flexible underground tubes on Joe Rogan, I thought they got to do CERN the same way. They can't risk a crack, so it's got to be flexible. But could HARP generate a big enough earthquake to shake CERN up while it was on? Well, when they've had it ramped up, we've had earthquakes in the area before. So, well, it would probably just create a domino effect of earthquakes and everyone would be dead on the planet. So let's not do that. Let's not open that ark, shall we? Let's not open Dora's box.
Let's let that one alone.
Let's cross the streams and close the portal.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Okay, so
make
like
a
I said,
movie.
Go ahead.
Well, that is a Dr. Evil worthy plot there. I mean, some has to take on that challenge. Isn't it funny how Hollywood doesn't really do anything with all this technology? Where is the James Bond movie where he goes to Bilderberg? Where is the superhero movie where they involve HARP? Why aren't they using these things? Because they're not allowed to. I tried to bring them up when I was in Hollywood. Oh, no. You run into a brick wall with that. But the way the movies are made is so antiquated. They're treating us like children. I mean, these things should be in court. Dan Aykroyd, he would love, I'm sure, to write the ultimate informed UFO invasion type of thing. He would involve a villain using HARP and CERN and everything else because that's what Hollywood's not doing.
So,
they don't want,
go ahead.
Oh, they don't want you to know. I think X-Files did it. They touched on this in their season revival a couple years ago. Their season 10, 6 episodes. But that's it. That's all they've done.
Have you heard anything about the Sunspot Observatory and how everything's closed down? The post office, the laundromat, like everything, due to the government. And then I was watching this video earlier where this guy is snooping around and he looks through the back window of one of these buildings, which was a laboratory, and he sees the X-Files somewhat, poking out of this garbage can, and it makes you wonder, was somebody trying to leave a message without actually leaving a message? And maybe somebody would have picked up on that as to what is going on with this situation? What are your thoughts on it?
I keep up on everything I can with the hours in the day available. I'm like Matt Man in the Matt Cave.
Yeah.
On my YouTube, I do a semi-daily Wizards log where I link everything I've watched and then I talk about it. So I've covered this, the Solar Observatory. 2 theories I've heard. 1 is aliens. 2 is there was a Chinese infiltration because it looks down over white sands. So they could have been observing some very highly classified stuff. The part that got me was the post office. Why shut down the post office? They filmed something, maybe UFOs, something major up in the sky, and they tried to get the evidence out of town. So the government is closing off they're making sure nothing leaked out. No package of film that's old fashioned. I guess everything's digital now, but They're making sure no victors smuggled any alien interview footage out of Area 51 this time. So, and when I think of the post office being closed down, I think of Men in Black 2 and Agent K. Just like working in a post office. I think it was probably, I mean, there's UFOs out there all the time. They're shutting down the ISS cameras all the time with one BS story after another. They saw something, and they're trying to control the evidence. I'd say it's in the UFO realm. Yeah, we got so much activity that it's inevitable we're going to see things, and the government doesn't know any new tricks. They, as much as we're getting a change in government, some people would say better, some people would say worse. President Trump doesn't control everything. There are plenty of factions in the government that operate independently, so they're going to keep doing their UFO cover-up stuff. I'm sure that this is protocol, right out of an X-Files episode. They critical information and then send in the cleanup crew. Yeah. As for the X-Files DVD,
I think it was like a secret message, is what I felt like. Somebody's trying to say something.
There's lots of hints. Trump with his Space Force, which is clearly going to be used to release a lot of our back-engineered alien technology and accelerate the process of open contact. It's a step towards it. There's a lot of little clues like that all over. I think, yeah, they do want us to know. Was that planted there to be seen? I could see that. I'm going to wait until I see what more comes out of the base before I make a decision. But right now, I'd say I'm leaning. My intuition is leaning towards something out of this world.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the people inside, not just our government in the United States, but other governments around the world, not just the Western world, the whole world, including Russia, they know the change is here. They want people to deal with it. But it's not so easy as just saying, well, we've had UFOs all this time, and here they are. The people can't deal with things. We've already established that. They don't want to deal with the reality of UFOs. So I think they're going about it in a very good way of just constantly feeding the public clues and candy till they get so used to it that when they start, the Space Force starts coming one amazing discovery after another, like anti-gravity, that we've had all these decades, people are like, oh, okay, what's next? And when we get to, oh, these UFOs are real, they're like, oh, okay. They're not going to have a meltdown.
I don't know. I think they overreact with that. Like, everybody's just going to lose their shiz. But I don't think so. I think we've been watching these certain shows like Ancient Aliens and, other things before that, and desensitizing ourselves as we do with video games and other movies. I don't think it'll be like they think it will, but perhaps I might be surprised.
Well, that's changing fast. But remember, they're doing things the way business as usual. They're still thinking Cold War. They've got a psychology about a generation out of date with their policies and procedures. And also, I think most people could handle it, especially now. But as history teaches us, or even recent history, look at the election, only takes a small percentage of people to be troublemakers for everything to be messed up. You got all the violence and riots in the streets in every city. What would people do with a UFO announcement?
Right.
It's questionable, but I think with everything you minimize.
Blame Trump. I was being sarcastic. I said they would blame Trump because he likes to get blamed for everything. So blame Trump.
Yeah,
why not? He's got enough on his list. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they find. Well, those are the people that just want to blame. They don't want to solve. And there is a problem of disclosure. How do you tell the people that I think at any point in history, there's always going to be people that can't handle it. We have to get our culture in a place where it's stable enough to where they want it rather than reject it. And I'm sure everyone's thought it was always the time to say, release it. And there's always people say, "Oh, we can't do it now." I'm sure there's people telling Trump right now, "Oh, you can never do this." And but there are people inside that want to keep feeding. So maybe that X-Files DVD was put there, and it's a power struggle between the awakening and the old guard.
Yeah, and the other thing that was interesting to me while watching these videos of people going in after the government has left, all they left was one line of police tape up. Like, nobody's going to pass that. There's people looking around wondering what's happening instead of just looking what's on the internet they're going to see for themselves. And this one guy, once he got towards one of the main labs that still had a fan on, probably aerating the area, he said he noticed a weird smell, and it was everywhere. Like, perhaps it was some sort of cleansing agent for whatever might have happened, or I don't know. It's pretty odd.
The Men in Black came through with the spray team. We gotta, well, who knows if there was maybe something showed up.
Yeah.
And then they have to sterilize it,
And didn't you hear, like, not too long ago, there was, like, 7 different messages that came from space, and we don't know where it came from. And shortly after that is when the Sunspot place was closed down. I mean, it kind of lines up weirdly to me.
I hadn't heard about that, but
I remember hearing about the signals being received. Yeah.
Yeah, they're covering something up. It's. I wish I lived closer.
Right.
I'd be too tempted. Something like that happens in Washington, and you don't hear from me again. Well, now you know what happened.
So BTO in the chat room was asking, with regards to the Montauk project, what do the guests know about the Montauk Monster and its association with Brookhaven Labs with its creation of Lyme disease and hybridization program?
I can cover that. The Montauk Monster, I think I mentioned earlier, you have 2 facilities there. You have Plum Island as well as the Montauk Camp Hero, where the project took place. Plum Island's a bio-research lab, and that's almost certainly where Lyme disease came from, because you had Eric Trout, the Nazi, who was assigned there in the 50s, and his specialty was working with ticks, and then ticks and Lyme disease appear in Lyme, Connecticut, across the water from Plum Island at the same time. No coincidence there. Whether it got out on accident or on purpose, however, is what we don't know. Brookhaven is there. Brookhaven is Nazi Central, and that's a lot of the Montauk project. All the paperclip scientists came through Montauk and Long Island. And that's why I think it was directed energy for 9/11, because in Brookhaven Labs, if you look on Google Earth, there's a big circle with a whole bunch of buildings around it, like a clock, evenly spaced. And it's at a slightly angled trajectory that if you draw a line on Google Earth between the node points on the roughly, I'll say 2:45 o'clock and 8:45 o'clock, kind of going west by southwest, it draws a straight line to ground zero in Manhattan. And there was a storm off the coast that day, and it was redirected. The energy was used. It changed direction abruptly when 9/11 was happening. So the Nazis that came through Montauk and Brookhaven, they had a strong influence on our government. Werner von Braun, a.k.a. Doc Brown from Back to the Future, he came through there. So did a lot of them. Then he went to work for Disney.
Yahoo!
Yeah. So Long Island, Brookhaven is Nazi land, and all the Tesla technology, it all gets mixed up there. Uncle Trump, his uncle, John Trump, all of them.
So you are a Montauk survivor, and way to adapt and overcome with that. When you were telling us about when you disappeared for that small length of time and you came back and you're basically frozen, is that what you were experiencing, or is this a whole different experience from that?
Well, I was cold, borderline hypothermia. But the Montauk experience it's easy to think of it as just the facility where most of the work took place, but in their own lore and in the Montauk books by Peter Moon, they say that they experimented with it outside of Long Island at one time only, and that was in 1983 outside of Olympia, Washington, which is a short distance from where, at 10 miles, 20 miles at most, where my experience happened in Tacoma, Washington, just up the road. What they're dealing with is, like I said earlier, bending reality. They are simulating the technology. Like I said, there's some things that happen like lightning. It happens naturally, but we can also harness it. Ask Doc Brown. But when people disappear in fairy rings or have these experiences that Steph Young goes around and researches later, and missing 411 and all that stuff, that can happen, quote unquote, naturally. It can happen by the will and design of entities on a much higher level than ourselves, a la the fairies or the aliens, because they don't need the technology anymore. They've mastered this. We, however, are still clumsy, and our vessel is still perfecting itself. We still use technology. We have found a way to artificially create these vortices. I was involved in a test. So I wasn't on Long Island. I was in the later part of the experiment, but the technology is far-reaching. They've used it here, there, and everywhere now. So it's Montauk technology, but I have not, as far as I know, been to Long Island. I was in the Olympia experiment, I guess. I don't think there's a name for it. That's what I'm calling it. That answer the question? I think I got a bit off track there. Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay. Let me see. I actually erased it.
Oh, no.
But I can find it really quick. Hold on. It's right down here. I saw it just a second ago. BTO, where are you? Okay, so with regards to the Montauk project, what do the guests know about the Montauk Monster and its association with Brookhaven Labs with its creation of Lyme disease and hybridized program?
Oh, wow.
Hybridization program.
I got way off on that. I think Montauk has let many things through. They've been experimenting with gateways. Some things intentional, some things unintentional. And it wasn't. I think there was a question after that, wasn't there? That wasn't the last one.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Oh, I'm probably.
I was asking you about the Montauk Air Force Base, as far as your experience with being a Montauk survivor, and what your experience with that project was. That was my question, and I forgot about myself.
Okay. It's non-linear. Yeah, it's a technology that's being employed to bend time. That's the best. I mean, maybe I'm totally crazy, but there's so many synchronicities that line up, so many quote-unquote coincidences that all point to this. Mm-hmm. I expect years from now, maybe 20, 30 years from now, I'm probably going to Marty McFly run into myself and say, okay, it's time to get in the chair and set all these things up now. Oh, okay. Now I'm like Doc Brown in the 60s and 70s, knowing he's going to meet Marty in the 80s, but he's not there yet. That's kind of what my life is like. There's so many pieces of the puzzle. I don't have them all, but I can see where it's going, and I'm like, oh boy, wow. How do I tell this story? It's so hard to. It's not linear.
Yeah, the best thing to do is share the information you have. People can accept it or negate it, and you do your part. You can't control what people do with it, but share that information because we all need to know different aspects of what's going on around us. But going into the Montauk project, that kind of takes me to the Philadelphia experience, which, from what I recall, was passed from Tesla to Einstein. What are your thoughts on this and similar experiments that have been conducted?
Well, Tesla worked on the Philadelphia experiment for a bit, but then he quit and he died, I think, in 43 while the experiment was around the time it ended. I hope he had a natural death. They wanted to get his records. But Einstein carried on the work. We all know Einstein regretted his work, which all was basically the same thing. These occult physics, hidden physics, whether we're talking electromagnetism and dimensional arcs or nuclear, Einstein with the whole bomb. Einstein was doing what he thought was like with the bomb. He went along with it because he was trying to be a good person. I think Einstein was a good person. Tesla was a good person. The people that were paying the bills weren't good people. The Philadelphia experiment, I think, happened as it's believed. We arced a ship through time and space, but I don't think it was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
This technology has been known for a long time. There were people that knew what would happen. Sort of like 9/11, they knew what would happen, and okay, make it happen. There's a higher purpose to this that goes generations, if not hundreds of years ahead of what people think. There was a society, the name's escaping me. There's a society in the 19th century that had to do with airships. Before the airships started, like from the 1860s, was this airship society. And then they started burying all their information and went into the secret societies. And there's a thing called the Oculus Society. And it's like, what? And there's these layers upon layers of secrecy. So I'm sure that the Tesla technology, Tesla discovered it, sure. But when he started displaying it, the real power brokers, the puppet masters in the world, recognized it for what it was, shut him down because they didn't want to share.
Mm-hmm.
And the Philadelphia experiment, like I said earlier, I think so many people think it ends there, but it continues on. The technology was taken to Montauk, and we did everything with that decades later. And now who knows where it's gone? That technology's, we're almost as far removed from Montauk as Montauk was from the Philadelphia experiment. So we have a big window of time for them to have expanded and played with that technology. Electromagnetic technology that manipulates the matrix. That's a scary thought to be in mass production.
Right.
Yeah. One's bad enough. We don't need Nazis with a bunch of DeLorean time machines. No, we don't. We don't need that at all.
That would not be coherent to what I see happening.
But maybe they already got them.
Yeah.
Anarch. Maybe.
Supposedly we got Nazis on the moon. I mean, what's happening?
Yeah.
Who are these people?
No, I'm pretty sure we've been on the moon longer than they told us. The secret space program and all that. I believe John Lear in his stories. You ever listen to John Lear talk at length?
No, I haven't. I just recently, the last couple years, got into online radio. I was never big into podcasts and such, and I was sharing my Four Corners Paranormal Investigations page, and I saw somebody advertising for Spaced Out Radio, and I was like, Spaced Out Radio? Like, I can relate. I'm spaced out. And, started listening and gaining a paranormal family, I call it, and then working for them, trying to propel what they're doing and sharing this information and transferring YouTube files and then booking jobs for Joe Roop. And then Dave came to me one day and was like, how would you like to do Sundays? And then Sundays turned into Saturdays, and now I'm weekends. But it's pretty odd how all that stuff works out.
Well, it's a great show. I've been trying to catch up on the archives, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts. This is a very comfortable place. Very good vibe.
Yeah, I love it here. And we fondly refer to it as the SOR Asylum because we're all a little crazy here. But we all have good perspectives, and we like to share each other's information and grow from that, because it's all about, for me, lifting each other up and helping each other grow through this experience or ascension or whatever the heck it is we're doing. But BTO in the chat room was asking, has the guests physically, psychologically, spiritually, soulfully encountered any extraterrestrial interdimensional beings? If so, who are they and how did they look?
Well, my entities that I talked about earlier, I have my YouTube testification, as I call it. I encountered at least 3 in my youth that were not human, more interdimensional, and just seeing them and connecting with them. No abduction, but communion. Those I have conscious memories of. In my life's experiences at large, I have no shortage of paranormal experiences. Seeing UFOs, telekinesis, all these things, but actual entities, there is that 1% in Hollywood that we didn't talk about that may not be human. There are some weird... Judge Doom from Roger Rabbit is a metaphor I use from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I look at it like this. I have a strange story that most people at a glance are going to say that's totally made up. That I've got all the evidence in the world to put on the table. But I say, well, it's all true. I have to put myself in the other perspective. Like when I'm talking to my cat, see it through his eyes. What is an alien? What is an interdimensional? When you meet entities that are not quite human, it's that reality check moment of like, do I believe this? Or do I want to slip into denial? Is so much the natural human thing to do. I can't define them. I can't describe them. They look human, but they're not human.
Mm-hmm.
But then I could say the same thing about myself, but I can't put hard evidence. I can't do the Terminator and slash open my arm and show you my metal skeleton. I can't do that. But I'd like to get blood tests on a lot of people in Hollywood, come to think of it.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I'd like to get them in a lineup or something.
It'd be cool to start some sort of project like that because there are a lot of open-minded people in Hollywood. And it would be interesting to see who would go along with this experiment.
It's going to be interesting to see who in Hollywood's going to still have a job and be accepted by the public and not burned at the stake after all the allegations are proven. Quite a list of creepy people there, but they don't even have to be alien. But on the alien thing, there's something I wanted to say there and it slipped away. Sorry. Maybe it'll pop back in.
Yeah, I just kind of wave my head around when I lose a thought. Oh, there it is. I found it. They pop out here and there.
Oh, yeah. There. Thank you. Jogged my memory. There are people in Hollywood that are not quite people, but it's such a crazy place anyway. They blend in. I said they should make another Men in Black movie where they don't have an office in Manhattan. They have an office in Hollywood. Because it'd be so easy to disguise yourself in that town if you were not from around here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a little bit that's true. People can make of that what they want. Not the time to go into it, but maybe not even the place because you do upset people.
Hey, we still got 10 minutes. We got all the time in the world. I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's what Marty McFly said. 10 minutes ought to do it.
Yep.
Well, let's make good use of those 10 minutes. Whatever you want to talk about.
Jason, you've been quiet over there for a little bit. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about or add?
No, I'm just listening to Matt. I feel, kind of his thing, his show,
Oh, thank you.
So, no problem. I'm more than content to listen.
Well, Tessa, any questions? I'm happy to keep answering them.
What about your Freemasonry? I know a lot of people have these weird ideals in their head about it, and I used to actually go and smoke with this lady. It was a tombstone, and her name was Mary J. Pound, and I'd go and smoke with her and talk to her, although she is no longer alive, but I saw this symbol on her headstone, and I automatically thought it was witchcraft because you have the circle with a star in it. But it was actually a Masonic symbol. So after that, I was very intrigued by Masons and Masonry. Can you fill us in on Masonry?
Yeah. I used to be like many in the conspiracy world, thinking those evil Freemasons. As soon as I saw a tile grid, I'm like, there they are! And to a certain extent, that's true. Not that they're evil, but they're everywhere, and you never realized it. I didn't know. I knew about Freemasons in my past. I'd heard, they set up Washington, D.C., the founding fathers, George Washington, were Freemasons. I'm like, well, what's that? I don't care what Freemasonry is. I'm never going to be into Freemasonry. Another thing I was very wrong about. But after L.A., when I met Satanists and weirdos of every variety, I met Masons as well. There were Masons at AFI that said, hey, Matt, have you ever considered joining this club? Or, you can't solicit as a Freemason. But here's where it got very murky. Have any of your audience may be familiar with the P2 scandal in Italy? A few decades ago, there was a Masonic lodge that went really bad. Short version of the story, it was actually the Black Jesuit Pope and the Knights of Malta, which are all part of the Vatican, who are friends with the Nazis. That's all the big club. That's your Illuminati people right there. The Masonic P2 scandal made Masons look bad because it was a big corrupt thing. Something similar is happening in Hollywood. You have a lot of people that are not giving Masonry the best example, and they're confusing the issue. So when I came back from LA in 2001, lost my fiance, lost my career, lost everything, met the devil, met all these pizza peddlers, I didn't know what to believe. So when the conspiracy people were saying, all these Masons are evil, I was inclined to believe it. However, I'm not one to rush to judgment because too many people have judged me. So I studied and I researched, and I found that the Masons were fathers and they were Disney, and I'm like, well, these aren't bad things necessarily. Mm-hmm. These Masons seem to have got a bum rap. In the last 20 or 30 years, everyone used to know about them. In Tacoma here, I learned after joining that you couldn't get into the firefighters union unless you were a Mason. It was that all the firefighters were Freemasons. I'm like, well, those aren't necessarily bad people. They're not all worshiping the devil. It's gotten out of control to where I compare Freemasonry to the new Area 51. Mm-hmm. In the 1990s, any UFO thing, it's Area 51. We know it. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, if there's something nefarious, it's those Freemasons. We know it. It's a convenient blackboard to write your favorite conspiracy on. But the reality of it is, the Freemasons are a fraternity. They are the most ancient fraternity. A lot of the legends are true. Yes, the Freemasons were the Templar. Yes, they did take the secrets of the psychedelics, the cannabosum and the hashish and other things out of the East and build Rosslyn Chapel. They did become the pirates and set sail from the port of the Grail, Portugal. They did become the founding fathers, and that's why Disneyland has Skull and Bones of the Caribbean, because and the Mark Twain was a Mason, and the Columbia and all this symbology. But it was all meant to be good, productive, like America, build something good, but then evil people come along and mess it all up. And now Masonry, after World War II, there was a boom in Masonry. But as technology has progressed, there's not as many Masons anymore. So they've got these big temples they're trying to keep up property tax on, and it's sort of fading out. And what's filled the void is conspiracy speculation. Oh, they're into evil and all this. I joined the Freemasons a little less than 3 years ago. I'm currently a 32nd degree Scottish Rite. I've been through all those rituals. I know those passwords. I know all that stuff. The Masons are really they're a club of people that want to study esoteric things, do good things for the community, and make themselves better people. They're kind of stuck in their old traditions a little bit. The world changes, but I've been through all these rituals. I haven't seen one goat's head. There's been no blood, no child sacrificing. Most Masons are actually Christians. They're churchgoers.
Well, and I heard, they look for the hierarchies in the community, like people that are trying to do good for each other and trying to build each other up, and it's not all this down and dirty, stuff that everybody thinks it is. It's actually something good, and it's kind of like not sorority, fraternity of men that are just trying to better their community and working together to build something. And it's not all this conspiratorial stuff that people are wanting to make up.
Correct. Now they do dance the line a little bit sometimes. I mean, they get a little wild with partying, and they can have friends. I mean,
who could blame them? Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
The judge, the police officer, nod, nod, wink, wink. These sorts of things do happen, but they're not because they're trying to take over the world. It's because they're brothers and they know each other are good people. As one brother Mason told me, if we're trying to take over the world, we suck at it.
Yeah.
We're not getting the job done. But I'm sure the higher elite clubs, like happened to me at AFI, like happens with the Skull and Bones at Yale and these other places, they go to high-ranking Masons. They find people that have been in Masons for years, and they will recruit from them. Sure. Nice. They'll corrupt the Constitution. They'll corrupt America. They'll corrupt Hollywood. They'll corrupt Disney. They'll find people and corrupt. They'll find Masons and corrupt them, because Masons already have an understanding of the occult. That's part of the learning all the Masonic lore. But that doesn't mean all Masons are evil. The mafia will try and corrupt cops. Doesn't mean everyone on the police force is on the take.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think one bad apple ruins the bunch. I mean,
And there's always a bad apple in every. There's always going to be.
Yeah, just throw it out. Be done with it.
Yeah.
The BTO was. Oh, go ahead.
There's going to be rogue Masons or clandestine Masons. There's going to be bad people, sure, but it doesn't represent the fraternity as a whole. No, that's pop culture.
Yeah, indeed, I agree. BTO in the chat room was asking, is there a difference between the House and Freemasons? If so, what are the differences? Also, what are the kinds of procedures of recruiting individuals to the Masons?
You can't recruit. One rule is we're not allowed to solicit. You must come of your own free will and accord. You have to simply decide, I want to be a Mason, and go find a lodge and knock on the door. It's as simple as that. When you're ready, you will find your path. No, if a Mason tries to recruit you, that's bad. That's what happened to me in Hollywood. You're not supposed to do that.
No, it's all fictitious when they do. When they do, that's when you know it's not right.
Then they're a rogue or a clandestine lodge, and you shouldn't have anything to do with them. A true and honorable Freemason knows that you must find your own path in life, and when you are ready, you will seek them out. They cannot solicit. And then what was the rest of the question? There was more to it.
Yeah, let me scroll down here really quick, while we still have time. Oh, we're actually at the 57th minute, but are the differences also, what are the kinds of procedures of recruiting? We also talked about that. So I think we got it covered. But
they investigate you. They will come to your house and meet your family and make sure you're a good person. They don't let anybody in. But you go through 3 rituals. You're not a Mason until your 3rd degree, because they have to make sure you're willing to stick with it. Then you can call yourself one. That's pretty much it. Everything else is just, you go do the ritual, they walk you through it.
All right, well, Matt, do you have any websites, YouTube pages, or anything you'd like to share with our listeners, a way for them to get a hold of you?
Primarily everything I do is on YouTube. I do mostly audio. I do some visuals, and I'll call your attention to them if I do, but it's mostly podcasts. YouTube, Matt deMille. I have no pseudonym, no handle, no Patreon. I don't, there's nothing hidden. It's all out there for free. I want to share the information. And I have a Facebook as well, but that's really just for chat. I don't post much except links to my YouTube. So it's all in one place.
Well, thank you so much again, Matt, for being on tonight. It was so awesome having you, and hopefully we'll have you again on the show someday.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. 3 hours went by fast, and anytime you want to have me on, feel free to chat me up. Facebook or YouTube. I'm easy to find.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt, and thank you, Jason. You guys have a wonderful night.
You too, and may the source be with you.
May the Schwartz be with you. And thank you to everyone in Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, Deep Talk Radio, and wherever else you may be listening in the universe tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening, and it was my pleasure, literally and figuratively, and I can't wait to do it again this next weekend on spacedoutradio.com. Until next time, nighty-night, love and light to all my space cases out there, and don't forget, we're all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better, and together, my friends, we own the night. You guys have a wonderful week. Don't work too hard, and don't have too much fun, and if you do, make sure you name it after me. I'll see you back for next weekend. Again, nighty-night, love and light. You guys take care of each other. Bye-bye.